Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Weather Boy, a horror podcast where we watch a randomly selected horror movie every week.
You sound like you're drunk.
I'm Bob. No, I have Oreo ball in my mouth, you fuck.
Bob's got balls in his mouth, and
Oh,
I'm
God
Ben.
damn it. No, I got one ball in my mouth.
Yeah, you would have one ball in your
Oh,
mouth.
shut up.
I'm Ben. I'm the hostess with the mostest and not a single ball in his mouth. And this is Beware the Board, the podcast where we check out a new randomly selected horror movie every week. We're back, guys.
We're back, baby.
If you listen to our extras, we just did Hatchet on
I love that movie.
Wednesday? Tuesday? Mardi Gras, whatever day
Mardi
that
Gras
is.
happens.
So check that out if you haven't. I know I just spoiled the movie for anyone who hasn't looked, but it's a lot of fun. A lot
Very
of fun if you like that genre. So, anything new with you, Bob?
Let me think.
Except your penchant for chocolate salty balls.
They're not that salty.
Wow.
They are chocolate and balls, though. Let me think.
I was more referencing that South Park episode.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
No, not really. Our D&D game came back this week. That was fun.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was fun. I had a good time.
I did the same thing I do every week. Work in school and then
Dude, you're
don't
gonna
sleep.
you're gonna die. School's kicking your ass, bro.
School always kicks my ass.
Yeah, why do you think I quit?
I only have if I do summer classes, maybe one semester.
See, I had way too many semesters for me to want to keep going.
Because I only have 12 classes I have left to take.
Oh,
something like
really?
that. Yeah.
That's actually not so bad.
But I don't take a lot of classes. I take 3 or 4 a semester.
well, yeah, because doing our job, you couldn't.
we technically work part-time. We
We
work
full time.
40 hours a week at least, usually.
Yeah, if not more.
The only reason it's part-time is because we're not guaranteed 40 hours.
Yeah, but our job, what we do specifically, we have to be there. It's kind of whack, but you know what? The overtime is incredible, so I'm not gonna bitch.
Mm-hmm. But I guess are you ready? I don't really have anything else to say.
Yeah, this is kind of a slow week in terms of interesting outside of podcast stories.
Yeah. We got some more concept art though.
Oh yeah, we did. We talked about coloring. This is
Yeah,
the last
it's
time we
coloring
talked
now.
to Shane about. Yeah,
We were talking about what color palettes.
I think it'll look really cool when we're done with the stuff we've seen. I'm so excited to show it off. It'll be so cool.
Okay.
Anyway,
Well, we have 3 spots left.
I know. Dude, we're coming up on the end of the board.
We have spot number 2 in pseudo documentaries, and then
Okay.
spot 1 and 3 in
Parasites.
parasites. Bob?
Yeah.
Which one?
Okay, so 1 and 3, right?
Yeah.
1.
1? Are you sure?
Uh-huh.
Positive?
Yeah. What are you watching, Benjamin?
Today, we're going to be watching Dreamcatcher.
Oh, what is this? I've never heard of this.
Ready for the description?
Sure.
It's a classic Stephen King horror story about 4 childhood friends going on a hunting trip.
Oh, shit. This is Stephen King?
Yep.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
This is also the book I read.
Oh, hell
Woo!
yeah.
Yeah, so that's fun.
I remember, I was wondering which spot was going to have the book you were reading.
So it's a 2003 film.
Okay.
It's 2 hours and 14 minutes long.
Awesome. I love a good long movie.
It's rated R.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad it's rated R.
Review scores.
Okay.
IMDb's a 5.5 out of 10.
Okay.
Tomatometer is a 28%.
Oh, God.
An audience score, 35.
Dude. People hate this
Woo!
movie. Oh, my God. Why do people hate it so much? I guess we'll find out.
Oh, you're going to find out.
Oh, no.
All right. So it has not won any awards, but it has received 5 nominations.
Okay, at least it got nominated for something.
Yeah, I can get nominated for something. Nominations are worthless, Bob.
Listen, man. At least people thought about it, okay?
Well, they're not worthless. Depending on what you get nominated for, it can be pretty good.
Yeah.
But a Chainsaw Award to James Newton Howard for Best Score.
Okay.
A Chainsaw Award for Worst Film. But it was
Oh.
only a nomination, guys. Don't worry.
It didn't win.
A Golden Schmoes for Biggest Disappointment of the Year.
Oh, my God.
A Golden Reel Award to Rupert Grieve, Jan Delpuc, and Wayne Griffin, and Darren King for Best Sound Editing and Domestic Feature, specifically dialogue and ADR.
Oh, okay. That's very interesting.
It is. And finally, a Teen Choice Award for Choice Movie in the Horror/Thriller category.
Oh, my God. It got nominated for a Teen Choice Award.
Woo.
Hell yeah. This movie's rated R. What the hell?
I know.
Teen Choice Award. They should not be watching this.
All right. You ready for this cast?
Oh, God. Is it star-studded?
Yes.
Actually?
Yes.
Hell yeah. Who's in this movie, Ben?
Straight up, Morgan Freeman.
What? Morgan Freeman's in this. This is gonna be awesome.
As Colonel Abraham Curtis. You might know him as Somerset in Seven, which you haven't seen.
I haven't seen, but yeah.
You might also know him as God
God in most things.
in literally the movies where he plays God.
Yeah.
Thomas Jane as Henry.
Okay.
He plays Carter Blake in Deep Blue Sea.
I haven't seen Blue Sea.
I can't imagine why. It's a ocean and a shark movie.
Yeah, I wonder.
I think that's the main character.
Okay.
Jason Lee as Beaver.
Man's name is Beaver.
Yeah,
All right.
Beaver.
Okay.
You will know this man. He's Dave in Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Up. Oh my God. All right.
He's also Syndrome in The Incredibles, and
I do know this guy.
Earl Hickey from My Name Is Earl. He's the main character.
Oh, he's Earl, and my name is Earl. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, man.
Like
If
I
only
said, you
Jacob
know
was
that
here.
guy. Damian Lewis as Jonesy. He also plays Steve McQueen in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And Richard D. Winters from Band of Brothers, which Band of Brothers is super duper 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 good.
I've never seen either of those movies, but I've heard they're both quite good.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is like...
Isn't that the new Quentin Tarantino movie?
It might be Quentin Tarantino. That's the one that's based off like the Manson murder kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then Band of Brothers is like, I believe that's directed by Tom Hanks, but it's like about World War II soldiers and stuff.
Mhm.
Very, very good. It's based on real life.
Okay.
Timothy Oliphant as Pete.
Oh, that name is super familiar.
Yeah, it should be. He's David in The Crazies.
I haven't seen that.
I know. It's a remake too, so.
Oh, okay.
Tom Sizemore as Owen.
I know that name too. Jesus Christ, this movie has so many people I know.
Big to star-studded cast.
Holy shit.
He also plays Sergeant Horvath in Saving Private Ryan.
I've not seen Saving Private Ryan. I know it's like an amazing movie. I've never seen it.
And then finally, we got Donnie Wahlberg as Duddits.
Whoa. Donnie Wahlberg?
Yeah, Donnie Wahlberg.
Is he related to Mark Wahlberg?
I believe it's his brother. But I
Okay.
can double check.
Okay. That's why I was like, oh my God. It's not Mark, but it's brother Donnie.
It's not Marky Mark,
Not Marky Mark or the Funky Bunch. It's just Donnie.
but I could be wrong. Relatives, Mark Wahlberg, yeah, brother.
Okay, cool.
His other brothers, Robert Wahlberg.
Oh.
And then there's Jim Wahlberg and Paul Wahlberg.
Oh my God,
They're
he's
all
got a bunch of brothers.
But yeah.
That's a pretty solid cast.
And Donnie Wahlberg is Eric Matthews in Saw 2.
Oh, okay.
It's like the
I
main
haven't seen
character
Saw
of
2, but okay.
All right. The director is Lawrence Kasdan. He also directed Silverado in 1985. The writer is, I hate to say this, William Goldman, who is so fucking famous. The fact that he made this movie is bizarre.
I don't know the name, but I'm sure.
Well, he's a writer, so
Yeah.
you aren't expected to. But he wrote The Princess Bride,
Okay, that's an amazing movie. I have seen that.
and then Lawrence Kasdan, the director.
Yeah.
You know what he also helped write?
What?
Because he also wrote this movie too.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
That's an awesome movie.
So both of these people, great writers.
What happened? Star-studded cast, amazing writers. People hate this. Watch,
30%.
We're gonna watch this movie, and I'm gonna think it's incredible.
Sure you are, Bob.
Oh no.
Bob laughed because he looked at my face.
Yeah.
How do I put this? I understand why it got this rating.
Okay. All right.
Also, one of those guys, I think it might have been William Goldman, also wrote Misery or something.
Oh shit.
I didn't write it down,
Okay.
but another Stephen King one.
Yeah.
Double check that for me, someone. Not you, Bob. I just meant
I'm gonna
someone
grab my
listening in the
phone. It's not
future.
my pocket.
I don't. That may be true. It may not. Putting that out there.
Okay.
Budget $68 million estimated.
Oh my God.
Box office $75.7 million.
It made more
It
money
did-
than it spent,
It made more money than it spent.
but not a lot.
However, what is it? You're supposed to make like
Double.
double
Yeah, about double. I think is what
to have paid it off.
Mm-hmm. They did not do that.
Country of origin: United States and Canada.
Okay.
Also known as this is the Argentina name El Cazador de Sueños, which is roughly translates to the Dream Hunter.
Okay.
Because I'll be honest, Dreamcatcher doesn't really translate well into other languages.
Yeah, it's I guess that's sort of like a Native American thing.
Yeah, but it's like a very English
Mm-hmm.
word for something, you know?
Yeah.
And when you're translating that literally, Dreamcatcher, Dream Hunter. Tagline. You ready for this?
Sure.
Kind of long. 4 friends hung a Dreamcatcher in their cabin. It's about to catch something it cannot stop.
That's interesting. All right.
All right. I have pages of I have so many post-movie discussion points and so many book comparison notes, and I'm only gonna be talking about like the first half of the book.
Really?
Yeah, because spoilers, you know.
Yeah.
Even though we're watching the movie, they're pretty
Mega
different.
spoilers.
So,
Okay.
My one fact:
A single fact.
Dreamcatcher was filmed around Prince George, British Columbia, for 7 weeks, starting in January 2002. Further shooting was done in Vancouver for 10 weeks.
Okay.
That's all you get.
All right.
That's all you get. That's it. I'm done.
Damn.
We're gonna
Okay.
watch this movie.
Oh, damn.
Hopefully, you don't just want to gouge your eyes out with a spoon. So,
We'll find out, I guess.
yeah.
We'll see you in a bit.
Get there.
Bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We just finished watching Dreamcatcher.
Yeah. I think, before we get to the no spoiler section, as
Yeah.
we always do, I need to, do my whole disclaimer here of, I've read the book for this, right?
Yep.
So I have a very different perspective going into this movie than Bob does. So I'll do the whole describe the movie thing like I normally do.
Yeah, sure.
But I'm mostly going to let you handle a lot of the talking until we get to the book comparison parts.
Sure.
So I can get, kind of your opinion on stuff
Mhm.
before I, add more information. I do have some questions for you, though. But,
I want to answer your questions, and I'm really curious what the book changed.
Well, what the movie changed. You
Or
mean.
what the movie? Yeah, what the what's different?
The
The
book came
differences.
first.
Yeah. Because this movie reeks of Stephen King. I said it. It's weird.
I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with Stephen King.
I've read Salem's Lot.
Okay.
I've seen both its. I started The Stand, but
By
didn't
both
finish
it's,
it.
you mean the new movies, right?
The new movies. I haven't
Not
seen the
both
miniseries.
versions.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I also read quite a bit of his. I don't think it's an autobiography, but a book about him. In one
His
of my
on
English
writing.
classes. Yeah, on
Yeah.
writing. I read most
Very,
of
very
that.
good.
Very good. Yeah.
So, the two new It movies, On Writing and Salem's Lot?
Yeah.
Okay. So, not super familiar.
Not super familiar, but I have a basis. You know what I
A
mean?
tiny basis.
Yeah.
Basically the smallest basis, because you have an adaptation of something,
Yeah.
which is fairly removed, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, you got one Stephen King story, and then kind of some general knowledge about his life. Because
Yeah.
the On Writing, he shares stories about himself,
Mm-hmm.
some of the problems he's gone through.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah,
very
it's
good.
very good. It's a good thing if you want to be a writer. But since we're in the no spoiler section, what do you want to give me?
Not what I expected, at all.
What were you expecting?
Well, so
Just hearing the name and knowing that this is a Parasite movie.
I guess it delivered on the Parasite aspect
Okay.
of the Parasite movie. I thought it was going to be a lot scarier just based on the premise. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It takes some twists and turns and kind of becomes a different movie than I was really expecting from the name and also the description you gave me.
Fair enough. Okay. Do you have anything you want to say kind of in this?
I can see why people give it a low score.
Yeah?
But I don't know if I completely agree with the score that it got, if that makes sense.
You don't think it was, what, a 30%?
No, it's not that bad.
Okay.
I don't think it's that bad at all. It's weird, for sure, but it's not that bad.
Fair enough.
I think that's it, yeah.
Yeah,
For no
anything else?
spoilers.
No?
Everything else I want to talk about is spoilery.
Do you think people should go watch it?
If you want a long movie, sure. It's long.
It's very long. 2 hours and 14 minutes.
So here's what I was going to say. I feel like this would 100% would do so much better as a show with how
Do you?
effing long it is. Yeah. I feel like if I had spent more time with each individual character and they did more things, basically if they had more time to tell this story over episodes, I think it would have been a lot better.
Now, do you think it should have been a TV show or a mini series?
Good question. I don't know. Maybe something with hour-long episodes, you know what I mean?
But how many?
I don't
Because that's
know.
more like a mini series format.
Probably
but
10.
Then that's a TV show.
Yeah.
Because the mini series is usually 2 to 4.
No, I think this would benefit from a 10-episode run of an hour-long episode apiece.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that would work because I feel like the pacing is pretty dog shit. It's pretty bad.
In what way? Because I know we were watching it and you turned over to our timer for the recording. You're like, wait, it's been 40 minutes? You're like, it's flying.
I feel like there are some parts that are too fast, then there are some parts that are too slow.
Okay.
And then there are some parts where it's is there a time skip here? What the fuck is going on? It's just really poorly plotted out, I guess. But I don't know if that's because of the way the book is or if that's a movie thing. I assume it's a movie thing because it feels like a movie thing.
Okay.
Because I don't know how long the book is. How long do you know? Can you tell me how long it is off the top of your head?
Almost 900 pages.
Yeah, so they did 900 pages in 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's a lot to pack into 2 hours and 15 minutes for a movie.
It can be done. But yeah.
It can be done, but
You're right. It is a lot to pack
it's
in.
a lot to pack in. So I feel like,
I mean, fair enough. That's a decent enough point.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add before we get to the spoilers?
Nope.
Sorry, I'm not contributing here, but
No, I get it. You don't want to spoil. You don't want to soil the.
I don't
The
want to
opinion.
soil your kind of straight out the gate ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But let me go to, I guess, roughly what happens here.
Yeah.
And this movie, like Bob said, kind of batshit, so it's going to be hard to
Gets
kind
off
of
the
break
rails
down.
fast.
But basically, the movie opens with basically quick like clips out of 4 different dudes' lives.
Mm-hmm.
Pete, Henry,
Beaver,
and Jones, who they call Jonesy. I think his full name's Greg Jones, but
Gary.
is it Gary Jones?
Mhm.
Yeah. So Jonesy. And each one, what would you describe as interesting about them, Bob?
I mean, I picked up on it instantly. They seem to have some sort of, I don't want to say supernatural, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it preternatural?
Preternatural?
Yeah. Some sort of weird thing going on with them where they can, like, they know things they shouldn't.
Okay.
Almost in a clairvoyant way. You know what I mean?
So you think they're like clairvoyant?
Yeah.
So like seeing the future?
Kind of.
Okay. Well, that's what
Yeah.
clairvoyance is.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm going to ask here is, what did you think about that opening? Because it opens immediately on Henry in like his therapy office writing stuff, and then he's like, he turns to his patient, he's like, "Do you think you killed your mom?"
Yep. I think it's interesting because we don't get an answer to the question of why they can do the things they do until much later. And I think giving us that seed at the beginning gives us A, insight into what they use this ability for, which is interesting and gives us characterization. And B, it also gives us insight into what kind of people they are because of what types of jobs they have. It allows us to get a grasp of who we're about to see for the rest of the movie, right?
So you liked all that
I
stuff?
liked it.
Okay, you
I
thought it was
enjoyed
a
it.
decent intro?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So once it establishes each of the characters, the last thing it establishes is it shows Jonesy
Mm-hmm.
walking out and getting hit by a car.
Yeah, getting
Very,
annihilated by a car.
All of the sudden.
I think I literally said, "Oh my God, is he dead already?"
He looks dead.
He definitely looks dead.
It's very jarring.
It's super jarring.
I'll say, like, he walks into the street, he gets past a couple of cars, and then one slams him out of nowhere. And
Destroys him.
it is a good car crash.
It's a real good
like,
one.
as far as movies go, this is a good car crash scene
Mhm.
of someone getting hit by a car, because he ragdolls, and you get to see it, and then he's laying on the ground kind of twitching.
Mm-hmm.
And then it cuts right from that to 6 months later.
Yep.
And they're in this cabin in the woods. It's a hunting cabin. They're hanging out. And I think it cuts immediately after to them separated, right? Because 2 of them have gone to the local store, Goslin's. That's
Well, we spend a little bit of time with them in the cabin.
we do, but like,
with them like shooting the shit and talking to each other. and
yeah,
hanging
it's
out
kind
and
of some
stuff.
character stuff. But
Yeah, it's
immediately
nice.
after that, it cuts to like the next day or something.
Yeah, 2
and-
of them are at the store. It's Pete
Goslin's, it's Pete and Henry.
and then
Then Beaver and Jonesy are out hunting.
looking for looks
It's
like they're
deer.
hunting deer. Yeah.
And, you know, Pete and Henry start driving back.
Mm-hmm.
But while they're driving back, Jonesy sees a deer.
And he's about to shoot it.
And he's about to shoot it. And then it turns out it's not a deer. It's a guy.
Yep.
What'd you think about that, Bob?
I thought so. So at this point in the film, all we have set up is that they're at a cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
I thought we were gonna spend the whole movie here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought this was gonna be like this was it. This was the movie. Like if 4
Like a
dudes in
cabin
the
in the
woods,
woods,
cabin
yeah.
in the woods. Yeah. The guy's name is Rick McCarthy. Menace to society. I've already decided.
McCarthy?
Yeah.
How come?
This man, Henry walks up and is like, "Oh, let me take you back to the cabin." Like, or not Henry.
Well,
Ernest.
McCarthy runs up to the cabin.
Yeah.
And Jones he's in a blind, like up
Mhm.
in a tree, and he has to get down. And you can see he's struggling. He has like a limp throughout the whole movie because
he got hit by a car.
yeah, his hip's fucked up.
His zip's fucked up.
But he starts waddling after McCarthy and he helps him inside.
Yeah.
'Cause
Trying to help him, because
Yeah.
McCarthy's like, "I've been lost in the woods since last night."
Mm-hmm.
Oh God.
And basically, Jonesy gets him settled in the house, and Beaver eventually walks in.
Yeah.
Bob, anything weird that happens in the house?
The whole time McCarthy's been in this house, he's been belching and farting, and the dudes are like, "Oh, this fucking stink. Like, it smells
Yeah.
bad." Jonesy notices that when McCarthy first comes in the house, his chest is really bloated and big. By the time Beaver gets there, the bloat has moved to his stomach. And Beaver's like, "Listen, it's probably nothing." And McCarthy's like, "Oh no, I found some berries in the woods last night and ate them, and I'm having an allergic reaction." He has like red marks on his face and stuff. So like,
Yeah.
"Oh, must be fine. He must be just like
Wow.
having some sort of allergic reaction."
I don't know if you saw Jonesy in the background. He was like,
Yeah,
that.
they were to his face. They're like trying to treat him nicely.
Uh-huh.
So they take him upstairs and they put him in bed. Like, you know what? Get some rest. I'm sure he'll be fine in the morning.
As they're leaving the room, what do you see, Bob?
Whatever is in his stomach is moving and writhing and being gross.
Yeah.
That's that's God. Sorry, it's really gross. I can't stand it.
And so, roughly at this point, it
Yeah.
cuts back to Henry and Peter driving down the road.
Yep.
just talking.
Pete's drinking a beer in the car.
Yeah, Pete's drinking a beer, and we get to learn that Henry's kind of upset right now because the patient that he essentially ran out of his office for, like, confronting him about killing his mom.
Yeah.
Through neglect, not actually killing her. He killed himself a couple days ago, so he's
Mm-hmm.
down in the dumps. But
He's distraught about it because he feels he's at fault for what happened.
while they're driving down this, like, really snowy road, and it's getting worse because it's starting to snow right now, they see something in the middle of the road, and it's a person. And so they swerve out of the way. The car flips.
Cool. Another cool car stunt.
It's a cool car stunt. It's like a real car. It flips. They're mostly okay from this.
Yeah. Pete says his leg's locked up, but other
Then
than
he's
that,
fine.
yeah, he can walk on it. He just has a limp now.
Yeah, barely.
Yeah, I guess he just like sprained it or something in the crash.
And Henry seems
Henry is mostly okay.
completely fine.
Yeah, not super injured.
But they walk over to the lady, and instead of being frozen to death like they think, because she's just sitting in the road,
Mm-hmm.
she's
She's about
alive.
waist deep in snow.
Oh yeah, she's deep, but
Mhm.
she's alive. She grabs Pete's leg as he's screaming at her,
Yeah.
calling her like a dumbass.
Because she's in the middle of the road and causes them to crash their car.
And basically what happens is Henry decides to go
Find help.
find help, and he leaves Pete and this woman. You know where? Did you see where he leaves them?
Oh God, no, actually.
No, it's by this lean-to thing,
Yeah, it's just like they start like a fire.
and they start a fire there. Yeah,
Yeah.
which comes out of nowhere,
Yeah.
basically.
Nah.
And I think it's very funny. The one thing Henry tells Pete not to do is go back to the car for the beers.
Yeah, he's like, don't go back to the car for beer. You can barely walk.
Yeah, but then Henry starts, sledging his way back to the house.
Trying to find help and get
And this is when we jump back to Jonesy and Beaver.
Jonesy and Beaver.
Basically, while they've been in the house, they notice something interesting happening outside.
Yep.
Which is a bunch of animals are running past. All different types, like bears, deer, chipmunks.
And none of them are like, they're not interacting with each other. They're just running away from
Mhm.
something.
And what is special about some of these animals?
They're like covered in red stuff.
Some of them are, yeah.
Yeah, some of them have like red, like dust or something on them. It's not kind of similar to the stuff that's on McCarthy's face.
Yeah, Jonesy notes that.
Yep.
And
So they go outside.
they go
and they're
outside.
looking at the animals as they're driving by.
And while they're outside, they see a helicopter.
And they're like, oh shit, let's flag him down and get some help for this sick guy in our house.
And when they flag down the guy, he just pulls out like a bullhorn and he's like, hey, this is a quarantine zone.
It'll be resolved in 24 to 48 hours.
Stay where you are.
Yep.
And then they fly away. And eventually, it's, I think, a while later.
Can I say
Oh,
this?
do you want to add this?
First shot of Morgan Freeman in a helicopter driving by. Just wanted to note
Beaver
that this is
flicks
where
him
we see
off.
him. Beaver does flip him off. Very funny.
But then they fly away, and I think it's a while later, like a couple hours or something. I
Yeah.
think there's a time skip because it looks
Dark outside.
darker.
Yeah.
Like they go back inside and they look around and there's blood on the floor.
Mm-hmm. Like a trail
Maybe
of
there
blood.
isn't a time skip, but they go back inside and there's blood.
I don't
on
think
the
it's a
floor.
time skip. I think the sun was setting while they were going
Yeah.
outside, so it looks darker in the house when they come back in.
There's blood on the floor, and they follow it into the bedroom they put McCarthy down in.
And he's not there.
There's blood on the bed,
blood everywhere.
and the blood trail leads into the bathroom. And they knock on the door, and McCarthy's like,
I'm fine.
I just need to make some room.
Yeah, I'm just like taking a dump.
That's,
Can a
I
man
think
have
his
some
exact
privacy?
words is, I need to make some room.
Well, then he says, "Can a man not have some privacy?"
Yeah, because they're like, dude, we need to get in there. Because obviously he's bleeding. And they're like,
yeah, and he even says what blood, which is
Yeah.
very confusing to me.
because they're like, you're bleeding everywhere. And he's like, what blood? And they break down the door. And what do you see when you get into this bathroom?
First of all, McCarthy's entire face is red.
Yep.
There's blood and red stuff everywhere. Blood
Yeah.
and red stuff. Not just blood, red stuff as well. McCarthy's fucking dead.
Yeah.
Something falls out of his ass because you
we
hear,
hear
it
go
plink.
plop.
And then the funniest thing is Jonesy goes,
No, Beaver goes.
well, no, Jonesy goes, I think he's dead. And then Beaver goes, no, he just fucking laid a turd. I heard it plink. He's not dead. Can't do that if you're dead. So he falls off the toilet, McCarthy, and
Yeah,
there's
Beaver
something.
goes to touch him to see if he's okay.
Yeah, falls off. They see something in the toilet. We are not shown what it is at this point, and Beaver just fucking slams the lid.
I don't think they see it. Beav goes to look, and Jonesy's like, no, and slams the lid.
I thought they looked in and saw what it was.
Nah.
Anyway, then Beaver sits on the toilet lid to hold whatever it is in there because it's thumping up and down trying to escape,
And he flushes it.
and he tries to flush it.
I really like you, but you went, they're dumbasses. Why aren't they flushing it? And then Beaver goes, boop.
Yep.
I thought it was very funny. You were jumping the gun there.
And then Jonesy's like, all right, I'll go get some fucking duct tape out in the shed. We got to tape this shut.
That's not what happens. Beaver pulls out, he's flushed it, and he's cocky because he thinks it's gone, and he pulls out these toothpicks because we see him the whole movie chewing on toothpicks.
Yeah.
He goes to pull one out, and right as he's like pulling one out, the thing hits the bottom of the thing, like
Mhm.
the seat he's sitting on,
Yeah.
which first reveal that he didn't get flushed. His toothpicks fall like all over the floor. And then Jonesy's like, okay.
I thought that happened after Jonesy left.
No.
I thought it did.
No, the toothpicks are all over the floor.
Yeah.
And essentially Jonesy's like, shit, I'll switch with you. Beaver, you run and go get like some cellophane tape from the shed. Beaver's like, nah, you go. With your hip, you can't
fight this thing if it escapes.
Right. And so, Jonesy runs to the shed, starts looking for the cellophane tape.
Takes him a dick year.
It takes him a long time because he doesn't know where this stuff is.
Yeah.
And, while he's in there, Beaver's kind of like chilling. He's kind of freaking out halfway through, but he hears Jonesy honk the horn.
Yep.
So now he's still looking. Now, the whole time, that Beaver's sitting on the toilet, what does he keep trying to do, Bob?
He keeps trying to grab these goddamn toothpicks so he can chew on one because he's stressed. Which, like, I get it, dude. Like, I understand. But also, whatever's in that toilet, it needs to be contained.
Yeah, and every time he goes to, like, reach for him, the thing thunks and almost knocks him over.
Every time.
And the last time he does it, bink, it basically hits him really hard. He falls over, and it breaks its way through the tank.
Yeah, the toilet tank shatters, and water goes everywhere.
Because it throws the lid up so hard.
Yeah.
And what comes out of the toilet, Bob?
I don't know how to describe it, but it's basically a worm with a slit on the bottom of the front and 2 eyeballs, and its mouth is full of teeth.
Yeah.
And then it's got a weird butthole tail with spikes on the end. I don't know how else to describe it.
That's an interesting description, Bob. I'll describe it later when we're talking about the book description.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that'll be
They're
interesting.
Vaguely similar. I'm just like,
okay.
I think your way of describing it's interesting.
Then it's basically a fight in the bathroom between Beaver and this worm, and the worm is kicking Beaver's ass.
Yeah. What does it do to him?
Takes off some of his fingers on his hand.
Yeah.
Bites the back of his neck. Knocks his glasses off his face, which is another thing, because he can't fucking see.
That's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah. So at this point, Jonesy comes back in, and Beaver's wrestling this thing.
Yeah. And Jonesy is like freaking out, like, "Oh God, I'm trying to help you." And Beaver's like, "Get the fuck out of here,
I think
dude."
it's less that he's freaking out trying to help, but he like freezes.
Yeah,
he's like, "What the fuck?"
I mean, yeah, that's a thing to see. Oh, we didn't even talk about it. You get to see McCarthy's butthole, like not his full butthole, but when he comes off the toilet, you see his ass and his blood. Ugh, it's so gross.
It's just like a bloody butthole.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
I didn't want to see it.
Bloody butt cheeks. It's fine.
It's
not that disturbing. But yeah, Beaver's wrestling this thing, and he's like, "Jonesy, go."
Yeah.
I'll hold it. And as Jonesy's standing there, the thing like bites Beaver's face.
Mm-hmm.
And he falls down. We don't get to see it like destroy his face or anything. But assumedly it kills him.
Yeah.
And then at this point, Jonesy slams the door shut. And the thing, we can hear it slink up to the door.
Yep.
And it starts trying to turn the door handle.
Jonesy's is holding it shut.
Did you like that?
Yeah, no, that fucking freaked me out.
Did you think it was kind of cheesy that it was turning
no,
the door
it
handle?
freaked me out, dude.
But then it starts breaking its way through the door.
Yep. And then it stops, and Jonesy is holding the door handle so hard that he pulls it out, so then it's not holding the worm back anymore, so the door slowly opens.
Yep.
And Jonesy gets... you can talk about this, because I don't want to talk about it anymore.
So Jonesy's holding the door handle, and the door slowly opens, right? And we expect the worm to come out.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, we see a shadow come up behind Jonesy, and the worm slithers between his feet.
Yep.
And
up
crawls
onto
up,
the thing.
and we see these feet, and we go up, and standing in front of us is this slimy, pale-looking gray alien.
It's a very large gray man with a big-ass noggin.
And 2 big eyes.
2 big yellow eyes. And Jonesy is fucking stunned. Because, I mean, you have to be.
Yeah.
That's fucking scary.
And the thing gets really close to his face, and then it explodes.
In red mist.
And the red mist flows into Jonesy.
Yep.
And then it cuts away.
Yeah. That was an interesting thing I didn't expect to happen, by the way.
Yeah, fair enough. What do you think of the gray alien?
It's terrifying.
Terrifying? You don't like it?
Terrifying.
Bob doesn't like gray aliens.
I don't like gray aliens. I'm very scared
They
of them.
scare him.
But that's not it. Well, we'll talk about it.
Okay. Anyways, basically it cuts back to Pete.
Who's now, 6 beers deep, I
yeah,
think
he
we
went for
counted?
the beer, and now he's like 6 beers deep. And he starts talking to this woman in the shack who isn't moving because we see that there's a hole like in her pants.
Yeah, where whatever was inside of her has escaped now.
And has crawled into the snow around him.
Yeah.
And he starts talking about something really weird.
Mm-hmm.
What does he start talking about, Bob?
How their friend... I don't know if we've gotten a kid flashback yet, have we? I don't think
No, I don't think so.
I don't think we've met Duddits yet. But he keeps talking about how his friend Duddits, who he met many years ago, is the one who gave them these powers that they have, this connection they all share. And how he's been preparing them for something, and he thinks that, he doesn't know what it is, basically. He's like, what did Duddits give us? Why would he give us this? What is he preparing us for?
Yeah, but what is Pete's theory about Duddits? Do you remember?
That he is not from this planet.
Yeah.
that he's an alien. That
And
Duddits
why?
is somehow an alien. I don't remember specifically what he says actually.
I think he's like he
Oh, he's so good that he cannot be a human being.
right, and then he's like he must come here to like save the world or something.
Yeah, very funny.
It's odd.
Yeah.
But basically, while this happens, Pete's like, I gotta pee.
I have to piss.
He starts peeing in the snow. He writes out Duddits
In the snow and piss.
And he pees on one spot for a while, and a hole is formed. And
Yeah.
what pops out of the hole, Bob?
The worm. It's another worm.
Yeah, it pops out, bites his dick.
He says later, it tried to bite my dick. I think he got the overalls in front of his cock before it got bitten
Okay.
off.
Fair enough, because he does see it come out slowly.
Yeah.
And then he starts fighting with it.
Yeah. It bites him. It tries to stab
It
him
bites
with its
his
tail.
ear.
Yeah.
That's about it.
He actually very smartly uses the fire that they've
Yeah.
made to like get it off of
It's
him.
holding on to his like crotch and everything, and he falls on
He
top of this
basically
fire.
just right on the fire flat, and it like
And,
freaks out and squirms away.
Yeah, it kills it, basically.
Yeah, and then when it's on his neck, like biting his ear, he takes a piece of wood from the fire and lights it and uses that to get it off of him.
Yeah, but he kills it, which is pretty great.
Pretty effective.
And then it cuts back to Henry, who's walking down the road.
Yep.
And Henry he hears a snowmobile coming towards him,
Yep.
which he's like, oh, yeah, it's Jonesy.
Yeah, because can we talk about this now?
Yeah, go ahead.
They all have the ability to read minds, all of them, within a certain range of each other, and other
Okay.
people's minds sometimes. If they're looking at them, I think they can read each other's minds at a further range than they can read other people's minds.
So you think their powers are mind reading and...
So I think they all have different powers on top
Okay.
of that. I think whatever the fuck Pete can do that can find things is really cool. Like
where he swirls his finger and a weird tunnel forms?
yeah, and I think that just lets him find stuff he's looking for.
Okay.
Jonesy's power is fucking nuts. The
For
memory
anyone who doesn't know,
warehouse,
Jonesy has this big, like, warehouse in his mind where he stores all his memories.
and he can compartmentalize it all and organize it. And then
Yeah.
he also has like a secret place where he can keep all the memories he wants to make sure he keeps.
It's like extra storage space.
Yeah, he calls it the SSD. Same shit, different day.
Okay, that's interesting.
It's on the door.
It's on the door. That's not what he calls it. I think it's interesting that was your takeaway.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's also what Jonesy writes when he calls, or not, when Beaver calls Jonesy.
At the beginning, yeah.
At the beginning, he writes
SSD.
SSD in the on the glass in the telephone booth.
We'll get into that later.
Interesting. But basically, it's a place where he can like store extra stuff
Yeah. It's
and
like
extra
a
memories.
special place for
Mhm.
the good stuff that he doesn't want to.
Because he even says whenever he
He says his warehouse is essentially full.
and whenever he learns something new, he has to throw something out. And
Be-
what he does, he has to burn it.
Yeah, he basically has to delete it from his mind.
Mm-hmm.
But things like he wants to make sure he doesn't delete, he throws into like the special room for safekeeping.
Which I think it's so cool that the special room looks like the place where they found Duddits.
Yeah. But long story
Sorry,
short,
I keep getting
no, it's a good thing to bring up
Yeah.
because, Henry hears the snowmobile coming and then he's like, that's not Jonesy, that's Mr. Gray.
Yeah.
He says it out loud. And then we see the snowmobile coming and it's Jonesy on the snowmobile.
Yep.
But what's weird
He's
about
acting
Jonesy?
freaky.
Yeah.
Like smiling weird and like acting very abnormal.
And it's at this point we see Jonesy starts talking in a British accent.
Yep.
Which is weird because it's not
Jonesy
British.
does not have a British accent.
But it's like a very posh British
Mhm.
accent. And right after, but he says, what was that, Mr. Jones?
Yep.
Or
I
should
think
say,
this part of the movie's cool, by the
Jonesy.
way.
And then we hear Jonesy's normal voice. We
Mhm.
don't see him say it, but we hear his normal voice say, like, who are you?
Yeah. Like, what are you doing in here? I think he says, why are you keeping me alive?
Yeah, and it's basically this reveal that the gray alien that exploded into mist
Mm-hmm. He's now
possessed
possessing
Jonesy.
him and has access to all of his memories and is walking around. But
His memory warehouse.
Jonesy is hiding in the SSD room.
Okay, it's SSDD.
SSDD, sorry, not SSD. SSDD room, and the gray alien cannot find him,
Yeah.
Mr. Gray.
Um,
So he's still in there a lot, cognizant of everything that's going on. He just cannot have control of his body.
and he can see what's happening through, like, this window.
Yeah.
That's in the room. Like,
Mhm.
he can see through his eyes. But, yeah, at some point around here, there's a flashback to, like, how the boys met Duddits. What did you think about the flashback stuff?
I actually really like the kid stuff. I wish there was more of it, honestly.
Let's just describe the two kid scenes right now.
Sure
I
we
think
can.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Because I don't exactly know when they come in, but the first one is them rescuing Duddits.
From a bunch of bullies trying to make him eat shit, literally.
They're looking to see if they can find this girl Schlossinger's. They think there's pictures of her, and I'm quoting here, pictures of Schlossinger's pussy
On the wall of this place.
in
yeah.
this like abandoned factory or something.
Yeah.
And when they're going there, they see Duddits, who's this kid. Do you know what type of school he goes to, Bob?
I'm not going to say it.
Okay, well, he goes to a special needs school
Yeah.
because he's special
That's
needs.
not what they say in the movie.
Yes, because this scene is set in
Like probably the 80s or the 70s,
the
right?
70s, and so they use the politically correct term for the 70s,
At the time.
which is
yeah.
not the politically correct term for right now.
Yes.
Wasn't necessarily politically correct then, but it was the common term. But
Yeah.
Duddits is only in his underwear, and two older kids. Do you know how old they looked?
Oh, they were probably in high school.
Yeah. How old do you think the four boys are, by the way?
Probably 13 to 14.
So school.
And I think they were early middle school, late middle school, early high school.
Okay.
And I think that the other kids were probably a year or two older than them.
Fair
so
enough.
probably in high school at some point.
But the kids are trying to make Duddits eat dog shit.
Yeah. Just being absolute fucking shitheads.
And basically the boys scare them off.
Yeah.
Because
I
they're
think it's really
basically like-
funny how they scare them off.
We'll tell.
They're like, we'll tell everybody how fucking terrible you are. And then Beaver's just like, no, let's fucking kick their
He
ass.
picks up two rocks and he slams them together. He's like, I want to kill him.
It's really good.
Obviously the bigger kids are like, we're just gonna kill you too, and they're like,
Yeah.
you won't catch Pete.
He can
runs
run
so
home and tell his
fast."
mom. They call him I think he
Um,
says they call him Flying Pete.
Yeah,
It's
but
good.
that's the first flashback. The second flashback is later on, and it shows basically how they got their powers.
Mm-hmm.
They basically commune with Duddits to find this missing girl
Yeah.
from the special needs school, and Duddits basically helps
Yeah.
them.
Pete uses his weird finger wave tunnel technique to find her.
Yeah, that's the first time he uses it.
Mm-hmm.
Duddits does it with him, and
Yeah,
find
they
it.
all learn, and the cool thing is they can all see it too, and I don't
Yeah,
think
it's
anyone else
implied, I
can.
think they can.
Yeah.
But those are the two flashbacks. And I guess going back to Jonesy, he's driving around. He picks up Pete.
Yep.
And he forces Pete to try and take him to the road.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
How does he force Pete?
Well, he's gonna kill him, and then Jonesy comes through the window and into Pete's mind and goes, "You just tell him what he wants, Pete, or he's gonna fucking kill you. Like, please, for the love of God, tell him."
Well, no, that's not. No.
Isn't that what happens?
No. Jonesy, Mr. Gray pulls up and tries to, like, trick Pete.
Yeah, in that
And-
he's Jonesy. Yeah.
Pete realizes and is like, no, who are you?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, why don't you tell me what I want? And Jonesy's like, don't tell him, Pete. And so Mr. Jonesy uses some powers to torture Pete. Do you not remember that? Pete starts screaming and choking.
Oh, yeah, because he's gonna kill him.
Yeah. I was asking you what happened.
Oh.
Yeah.
Also, can I bring something up?
Uh-huh.
Pete tries to hit him with the finger blast, like the cool thing that Duddits taught him, and he dodges it. And Mr. Gray goes, "What a neat little trick! I wonder who taught you that."
Well, no, he doesn't try to hit him with it.
Does
Just
he not?
pointing. Yeah. It just happens to be behind him.
It looks like he dodges it.
Well, no, it just kind of surprises him.
Interesting.
But I was really asking, do you know how, like, Mr. Gray was, like, strangling him?
I actually don't know.
Okay, so anyways, he uses the finger blast to go point him.
Yeah.
And they start driving away. And eventually, Mr. Gray keeps asking Pete questions. Eventually, he's like, no, I'm not going to answer anymore.
Yep.
And what does Mr.
Oh,
Gray
God.
do?
Mr. Gray turns into his normal alien form, which
It's a
is
big, like,
it-
it's a bigger
basically
version of the worms.
bigger version of the worms, but with legs,
Yeah.
and takes it and just
Eats him.
eats him.
Bites him in half.
And the whole time, Jonesy has to watch from
Yup.
his mind.
And so from this point forward, it's basically Mr. Gray hitchhiking around,
Yeah.
killing people, and he eventually infects a dog, and we learn he's going to... Do you remember what the name of the place is?
Quabbin Reserve.
Yeah, it's basically the... it's not a reserve, it's a reservoir.
Reservoir,
Bob.
that's what it was.
A reservoir where, like, all the water for Boston comes from.
Yeah.
And he basically picks up this dog along the way, and he infects with a worm thing.
Yep.
His idea is to get the worm to burst out of the dog, lay eggs, and have the eggs get into the water to infect everyone in Boston.
Yep.
During this time, Henry has put on skis, which apparently Bob thinks is very funny.
It is funny, man.
Why?
Because it's faster than walking, but I can tell Henry doesn't know how to fucking ski. And it's so funny.
All right.
Watching him fall was one of the funniest parts of the movie.
Yeah, he does fall down once he makes it a while. The second he falls down, lights turn on.
Yep.
And he's surrounded by these military guys who have posted up at Goslin's.
Yep.
And I think we've kind of skipped over this.
Yeah,
These
we've
military
already seen
guys
all that stuff
are,
set up, basically.
you know, the guys who've quarantined this area. They've made Goslin's their home base, and they've basically taken all the local people they can find and thrown them into, like, a fenced-in area.
Yeah.
Because basically everyone's infected. Or if you're not infected, you're still going in there in case you're infected.
Yeah, just in case.
And right before Henry gets there, they've gone out and they've killed all the aliens.
Well, tried to kill all the aliens.
Well, essentially what has happened is there was a crash landing.
Yep.
This huge ship crashed somewhere
It's
near
a
there.
big fucking ship, too.
They take helicopters there and they start rocketing
Yeah.
all these, like, basically full-grown gray men that we see.
Yeah.
The two-leg worm boys. And while they're doing that, the ship explodes because they kill most of them.
Yeah. So they self-destruct the ship to basically kill as many of them as possible.
I think that's the big stuff. The only thing I will mention is, did you hear the noises that the aliens were like projecting into their heads?
Yeah, that's like, and I think it's so interesting that what is Morgan Freeman's character's name? I can't remember. Abe.
Abraham Curtis.
Yeah, so Curtis is the leader of what is called the Blue Group.
Blue team
or whatever. Basically, they're the alien people. If an alien crash lands, they're the ones sent in to clean it up. They're not controlled by the government. They're controlled by him.
Well, they're a part of the government. They're just slightly outside the army.
Yeah, they're outside of like military jurisdiction and stuff for the most part.
Standard. Yeah. They're in it, but
and
removed.
The whole time that they're flying over, like shooting all these aliens, they're projecting into their minds. They're like, "No, we're helpless. We crashed. Like, please help us. We're dying. We need to survive." Blah blah blah. Basically, trying to convince them that they should not kill all of them. And Curtis is just like, "Don't believe a word they say. These fucking wretched worms are here to take over our planet." He has no remorse for it at all. And
I think he says they're foxes in the chicken coop.
Yeah, he said this guy goes hard.
Yeah,
he has no remorse for any.
Did you
of
like
this.
Morgan Freeman?
Yeah,
yeah.
I think he's good
As Curtis.
Yeah, it's good. It's very good. Thumbs up. Good character, even though he's kind of a dickhead.
Why is he a dickhead, Bob?
Yeah.
Are you gonna mention that scene? Why don't you mention that scene?
So there's this other. Before this happens, before they go on this first excursion out into the field to blow up all these aliens, there's a scene of Curtis in his like trailer or whatever set up by Gosling's, and Owens, the other officer that works directly underneath him, brings in a dude.
Let's mention Owens. Why is Owens important?
Because
to Curtis, essentially.
Because Curtis decides that this is his last rodeo, and he basically going to give command over to Owens after this is all over. So he's second in command, basically. He even gives Owens a gun.
His gun. That's from
John Wayne, which was very funny, made me laugh. But Owens brings in this guy that was on patrol. And Curtis starts asking him questions. He was like, "I need to know this right now. If you tell me the truth, everything will be fine. But if you lie to me, it's going to be bad. Like, do not lie to me." He's like, "Did you or did you not let this woman and her young daughter pass at this time, at this road?" What was it? And he's like, "Yes, I did."
But he's like, I don't. Basically, he's like, these people took a wrong turn.
Yeah, they weren't in the quarantine zone. And then
They just weren't in the infection area.
In the infection area, yeah. And then Curtis goes, "Do you know that for a fact?"
He says, "Scout's honor."
Scout's honor. Do you know that for a fact? Swear to me that you know that for a fact that they were not infected. And he goes to put up 3 fingers for Scout's honor, and fucking Curtis blows one of his fingers off.
Yep.
Dude's freaking out, screaming. Come to find out, that woman was definitely infected and is now in the rodeo pen with everybody else. So, dude fucked up.
Yeah.
Still didn't deserve to get his fingers blown off, but whatever.
It's the first time you see Morgan Freeman getting kind of unhinged in this movie.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's different from other stuff I've seen him in, you know?
But, yeah, generally, going back to Henry arriving.
Yeah.
Because we kind of went over the important stuff there. Henry arrives. He has some interactions with
Owens.
And a weird
and a little bit of
psychic thing with Curtis.
Yeah.
But basically, I think Abe gets weirded out, so he goes to talk to him.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that Abe picked up on the mind spying, because I guess he's probably been in this for so long that he knows what that feels like, because I'm sure the other aliens have tried it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a small little thing that I think is very interesting.
Okay. But eventually, Owens goes to talk to Henry.
Yeah.
And did you catch what, like, Henry said to Owens to, like, catch his attention?
He starts talking about his family.
Yeah.
And talking about stuff that only someone who knew Owens really well would know.
Yeah.
Like, I know your dad was a great soldier. You carry a picture of him everywhere you go. Like, just stuff that will build a rapport that only someone who knows him really well would know.
Yeah.
Which I think is very interesting.
It's kind of proven, like, hey, I got powers or whatever.
Yeah. I'm special, basically.
And Henry essentially goes, we have 2 problems. A, you, Owens, don't want to kill everyone here, because basically at this point, Curtis has told him, they're going to have to kill everyone in the rodeo pen.
Yep.
Which I think it's kind of odd that Owens has a problem with.
Yeah.
Because his first introduction, he's like, kill them all.
Mm-hmm.
Got to keep it contained. And then, like, only 5 minutes earlier, he was like, there's studies saying that maybe half of these people will be okay.
Yeah. Basically, their government has run some tests, and there's a chance that only some of the people will get infected. That get infected will have worms burst out of them.
Yeah, and die.
Causing a problem.
And so Owens like kind of talking about this study because it was done by this other guy,
General Matheson.
3-star
General Matheson.
3-star. Pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
And Kurtz is like, I've been doing this for 25 years. That's bullshit. That guy hasn't been 2 states near an alien.
Yeah.
An ET, is what he calls it. But essentially, you know, Owen's talking to Henry, and Henry's like, you don't want to kill all these people. It's our job to, it might be our job to kill people, but sometimes we gotta save lives, which is apparently the last thing Owen's dad
ever said.
But the other thing he says is, my friend carried one of these things out of here.
Yeah.
Which is, Kurt said that's like their worst case
A
scenario.
hitchhiker is their worst case scenario, yeah.
Yeah, that one person will be infected and escape. That's why they have to take care and kill like everyone they have under control.
Mm-hmm.
It's because we can't necessarily stop a hitchhiker. We can set up like barriers and everything. We can do our best. But we can make sure no one escapes from the facility.
quarantine
Which
zone.
I'll ask you what your thoughts are on Kurtz's plan later. But yeah, essentially, Owens is convinced by Henry to call General Matheson to take over the facility.
To prevent all these people from dying.
To take Henry away to go locate Jonesy.
Yeah, because their psychic connection is a much further distance than others. So basically he can kind of track his direction and communicate with him.
Yeah, and they're driving, and basically Owens frees Henry.
Yep.
And they're driving along, and Henry's able to contact Jonesy, and Jonesy really is only able to tell him that they're going to Massachusetts.
Yep.
And it's right around this time that I guess Henry has like a psychic thing that tells him he needs Duddits to help.
I think he puts it together because of something. Doesn't Jonesy on the phone say, our friend Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, basically reminding him, because when they first meet Duddits, he has a Scooby-Doo lunchbox, and he sings the Scooby-Doo theme song.
But they decide to go pick up Duddits.
Duddits, yeah.
And we see, they haven't seen him for a while, but he has leukemia.
Yeah.
So he's pretty bad. He's missing most of his hair and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they pick him up, and they use Duddits to find Henry.
Yep, to completely track down Henry. Because he's somewhere in Massachusetts. They just don't know exactly where.
But they track him down to the reservoir. When they're there, Owens gets out of the car first with a gun.
Yep.
Because he's basically like...
I have to kill him.
He's told Henry at this point, we're going to have to shoot your friend. And so he goes in alone, I think because he doesn't want the distraction there.
Yeah, but also, I don't, he doesn't want to see that, and neither does Duddits.
Yeah, so he tells Henry, stay in the car and watch Duddits. Well... Owens is walking in. We see Kurtz come in with a helicopter with a 50 cal machine gun on it.
Because there's a fucking tracker in the John Wayne gun that he gave Owens.
And they get into a firefight. Long story short, Owens takes a couple 50 cal rounds and dies. But not before shooting down
a helicopter
Curtis's plane.
With a submachine gun and a 45.
He doesn't even shoot it down with the submachine gun.
No, he put some holes in it.
No, I think he misses entirely with the submachine gun.
No way, bro. He fired like 60
know.
rounds.
I think he only puts holes in with the 45 revolver. Not revolver, but like
the
pistol.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he puts two shots in the door with
and then he shoots out the fucking tail thing.
And then he shoots out the tail
I don't know what you would call that.
Tail
rotor?
Tail rotor, yeah.
Yeah.
And Curtis crashes.
And explodes.
Basically they both die.
Yep.
And so, Henry gets out now and he grabs the gun and he's like, you stay here.
First of all, good thing he checked the magazine. It was empty. He had to pull one off of Owen's corpse and reload it.
But he goes inside, and when he gets inside, Jonesy is sitting next to an open,
reservoir tank, basically.
It's not a reservoir tank. It's the...
manhole cover.
It's a manhole cover that Jonesy has levered open.
Yeah.
And right in front of Jonesy is a worm.
That has crawled out of the dog.
It's crawled out of the dog. And so... Henry walks in the room. The worm sees him. It rushes Henry.
Yep.
He starts firing erratically.
I think it's really cool, by the way, that he doesn't instantly kill it, that he actually misses a bunch. Because he doesn't know how to use a fucking submachine gun like that.
He knows how to use a regular gun, but not a submachine gun.
And also, he's firing it full auto, so it just misses.
Yeah.
Whiffs.
And eventually, the worm jumps at him.
He sticks the gun in front of him, and it latches onto the front of it.
Which I think is humorous.
Kind of stupid.
Kind of stupid, yeah.
But then he blows it away.
Then he blows it away. It gets blasted away.
Yeah.
And, Jonesy's laying down the manhole cover. He's like, I knew you'd come for me, Henry. And Henry's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're Jonesy.
Tell me
something.
something.
I think I might have to shoot you.
Tell me something only we would know.
And Jonesy goes like,
first he says
SSDD.
And he goes, not good enough.
And so Jonesy's like, why don't you ask me something, like any question, right?
Yeah.
And so the building where they were going to look for the picture
yeah,
of a woman's genitalia and where they found Duddits had this logo written on it, no jump, no play.
No bounce, no play.
No bounce, no play. Yeah, but no bounce, no play. And it's basically, we can talk about what that means later, but
yeah,
it says no bounce, no play. And so he asks, what does that say? It doesn't say no bounce, no play, but he's like, what was on that building?
Yeah.
And we see Jonesy slowly start to go, no, bounce, because he's trying to, buy time, because Jonesy can see it, that out of the dead worm's corpse, an egg has rolled out.
Single eggular.
And a tiny little worm is hatched out of there. It's about the size of what, like an earthworm?
They're very small, yeah.
And it's basically starting to crawl towards this open manhole cover. But right before Jonesy can finish his sentence, Duddits walks in. And as Duddits walks in and towards Mr. Gray,
yep,
one of the giant aliens bursts out of Jonesy. From red mist, essentially.
Yeah.
It doesn't tear out of him.
No.
and
it stops possessing him.
Yeah, it dabs Duddits with his tail.
Yeah, because all of the tails are like these weird prehensile, like try.
Looks like the claw from the claw machine, except pointy.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. It stabs Duddits in the chest onto the ground. But then Duddits goes, what, I Duddits?
Yeah, he says that a lot. He just throws up his goes, I Duddits.
He throws up his hands. But he grabs the tentacle.
Yep.
And what happens, Bob?
Duddits turns into an alien.
But distinctly a different alien.
A different kind of alien, which is very interesting.
And basically, they start, like, fusing together.
Yeah, and Duddits, like, covers him in, like, some weird, like, I don't know, amorphous, like, egg-like, what is the word I'm looking, membrane?
Yeah, but they like, implode and then explode into red dust.
Yep.
And, at this point, Jonesy and Henry are kind of having, like, a face-off. Because I don't think Henry knows at this point. But then Jonesy
steps on the worm.
The little worm that is basically inches away from jumping into the water. And so it's kind of like,
did it.
Jonesy's okay. And then it's like, end of movie.
That's it. It's the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's it. That was a long explanation.
Yeah.
Mostly because there's a lot to unpack in this film.
Yeah, we even skipped a lot, actually.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about fucking, oh my god, Henry burning the cabin down.
Yeah, Henry made it back to the cabin. He burnt it down.
Yeah, because there were eggs and worms inside. And he went,
Yeah.
fuck that.
And a lot of this red stuff.
Yep, the red stuff that's all over the animals and on people's
Do you
faces.
remember what the soldiers call it?
Ripley.
Yeah.
Like, named after the woman from Alien.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, it's the fast-growing red stuff.
I mean, it had covered the cabin by the time they got in there.
Is there any way you describe that red stuff? I know it's the stuff on the people.
It looks, oh god, what is the word? Looks like almost fungus.
Okay.
Kind of. Like, not moss. It looks
Like
mossy.
moss?
It's like red moss.
Okay.
Kind of, yeah.
But
more dusty looking.
it's growing fast all over everything.
Yeah.
And there's a worm in the bed there.
And a
Kind
bunch
of
of
looks
eggs.
weird. And a bunch of eggs. But yeah, that's kind of the movie.
Yep.
We did a kind of an in-depth discussion here because there's a lot to break down.
It's a very long movie.
Also, you might have heard the reviews of this movie and might have gone, I don't want to listen to this.
Yep.
Or I don't want to watch this movie. So we kind of gave you a pretty in-depth discussion. So if you aren't going to watch
Didn't
it.
expect the alien spin, gotta be honest.
What did you think? It was just going to be some weird parasite?
Yep.
All right. So do you have any comments you want to make before I start asking you post-movie discussion questions? Now that we've kind of summarized what happens?
No, because I can talk about it during the discussion.
Okay. So I think this point needs to be made. Dreamcatcher is bonkers.
Yeah. No, it's nuts.
Like, it's wild. It's like alien parasites in the woods, but there's also like this weird, like, how do you
Thing going
describe
on-
it? Mind reading?
Yeah,
with-
mind reading, telepathy thing, and also other powers that I don't really understand.
Yeah, I think you've described it as mind reading, telepathy, and then what's the other one that means precognition?
Yeah, because there's stuff that because fucking when Henry comes back to the house, he doesn't know what happened, but he gets a flashback of what Jonesy saw.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's his power, by the way, if you were wondering. He's the one with precognition, or postcognition, I guess.
Whatever.
I don't know what Beeve's power is, by the way. But I don't think Beaver has an extra power like the rest of them.
All right, well,
I assume he might in the book, but
we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But there's a weird magic kind of psychic thing. There's this parasite.
aliens.
There's also aliens.
multiple different kinds of aliens.
But yeah.
And then
multiple
also the
different
army
kinds.
subplot between like Owens and Curtis and Matheson. It's
Yeah.
a whole thing.
And I think the fact that there's so much going on and it's so weird is a good example of the whole, like, Stephen King eccentric style of work.
Yeah.
And now this is obviously one of his more eccentric works, but
I want to read this now, by the way.
we'll talk about the book in a little bit. But glad you want to read it. All right, so the way you can kind of summarize this movie is it's Stephen King's attempt to make the bathroom scary.
Huh.
Simply because, like, the thought of something coming out of a toilet to, like, attack you
Mm-hmm.
is kind of scary. Like,
Very
imagine
scary.
a spider or a snake, like, in your toilet,
Ugh.
like, while you're sitting down.
It's a real fear that I have.
However, I think it's important, though, that, like, King's reasoning for the topic had more to do, like, with the idea of a lot of bad news coming to you in the bathroom, like, realizing you have, like, cancer or something like that.
Huh.
Or, like, when you go to the bathroom and you poop,
Mm-hmm.
you look down in the bowl and there's, like, worms or blood.
Or something bad, yeah. Interesting.
Not to mention, like, he's gone on record saying, like, half of scaring people is getting them somewhere they feel undefended, and there's nowhere, like, worse than in the bathroom with your
bathroom.
pants down.
You know what? That makes total sense on why
But
Pete got attacked while he was pissing and shit's coming out of their ass while they're pooping. That makes total sense.
yeah, that's kind of the idea here. It was Stephen King. Essentially, it was his attempt to make the bathroom scary. That's how you can roughly summarize it. Because I don't know if you remember what Morgan Freeman calls the worms. I think he's the only one who does it, and he does it once.
No, I don't actually.
Calls them shit weasels. I'm surprised you didn't catch that because it's pretty funny.
You know what? I didn't catch it because I had just assumed that was an insult that he said often.
He only says it once in the movie.
Yeah, now
I'm
that I
assuming
think
he
about
does
it.
say it often, but he calls them shit weasels.
That makes sense. That's really funny.
Which obviously, if we decide to go with the name shit weasels for this episode, we really can't.
Yeah.
I figured out a fancy scientific name for that.
Oh my god.
Mustela cacas. So,
that
title name there, because Mustela is
that title will
or
underperform.
Mustela is the scientific name for weasel, and then cacas
okay.
is Latin for shit.
For shit, yeah.
I thought it was clever.
It is clever, but I don't know if anyone else would get it.
They don't have to get it. They didn't watch the thing.
It's fair. They'll get it if they watch the episode.
Yep. But yeah, shit weasels. I think it's a little catchier than just calling them worms.
It is catchy.
But yeah, I mean, do you kind of get the bathroom thing?
Yeah, no, I get it now that you say it.
Do
But
you,
it's not evident in the actual movie.
Do you think that's kind of stupid?
Yes. It is pretty stupid.
Okay.
But that's very Stephen... once again, I think that's very Stephen King. Taking something stupid and trying to make
Like the
something out
bathroom
of it.
being scary?
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting. I was like, fuck you, bitch.
No, because I'm thinking about Salem's Lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've read Salem's Lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know Stephen King kind of likes to write himself a character.
Yeah. He is the main character in Salem's Lot, and you cannot change my mind.
Yeah, he writes one character that's usually kind of the main-ish character that has a lot of traits you'd associate with Stephen King, like being a writer or something.
Literally an alcoholic writer.
Do you know which character was the Stephen King character in this?
See, I'm curious what the answer is going to be.
Yeah, I can tell you what the probable answer is, but which one do you think it is?
I want to say it's Jonesy.
Mm-hmm.
Pete does have alcoholism. It's not Beaver. Beaver's too happy-go-lucky to be Stephen King. It's Jonesy. It has to be Jonesy. It has to be Jonesy. It has to be.
Final answer?
Yeah.
It is Jonesy.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to think it was Henry,
No,
who has a lot more screen time in this movie.
that's fair, but I don't think Stephen King... I think Stephen King doesn't really fit Henry that well, but also I think Jonesy is more the main character.
Okay. Is that your only reason that you think it was Jonesy?
No, because I also think Stephen King, he talks about this in On Writing, he has had a lot of struggles in his life with, what is it I'm looking for?
Drugs and alcohol?
Drugs and alcohol, and I think the worm being in Jonesy's mind and trapping him is kind of an allegory.
Okay. That's
or
an
like
interesting
an analog for that sort of thing. Because sometimes when people have a crippling addiction, it can feel like their mind is muddled and they're trapped within themselves, you know what I mean? And that's sort of what's happening in this situation.
Oh, that's...
Being an observer of your life without feeling like you have any actual input is exactly what was happening to Jonesy. You know what I mean? He was observing what was happening to himself from an outside perspective without any sort of control, which is what it can feel like when you're on a spiral.
That's a cool thing. I hadn't thought about it that way. I have a very different reasoning for why this
Really?
is the obvious Stephen King character.
Okay.
Firstly, there's a weird throwaway line in the book. This is the first time I'm going to mention the book, but I won't do this again until we get to the book section,
Sure.
where it's mentioned that Jonesy wanted to be a writer when he
Oh.
grew up. So that's one of the lines. But there's a very, very obvious
Okay.
connection, though. Stephen King wrote this book after a car crash,
Oh.
and
Okay.
Jonesy's in a car crash.
Jonesy gets annihilated by a car. That's like the gnarliest thing about this movie. I think the car crash is like really cool. I think Jonesy, like the makeup on that looks really good too.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the car crash more when we get to the book section because it is kind of important to the story. But moving on, do you think the dark comedy of this works? Like, do you think it's too humorous?
I don't think it's too humorous. No, I think it has the right amount of funny.
Okay.
Like I think Beaver, I love Beaver. He's probably my favorite of the main characters. He's funny, but in a dark way. Because even when he's on the shitter holding back the worm, he's funny. Like he's trying to make Jonesy not feel so bad, you know. And I think that I think it works. I think it adds a nice layer to the whole movie that it's a little funny throughout. It's nice.
Do you kind of like that?
Mm-hmm.
But you
I do.
didn't think it was like too goofy at times? Like,
No, actually.
I mean, like when the shit weasel jumps onto the gun and then pauses for a second and gets blown away.
That was stupid, but like I can get over it. You know what I
Okay.
mean? It didn't ruin
There
anything.
wasn't enough to ruin it.
No.
But I just noticed a couple things like that where it was a little, I thought, over the top.
Yeah.
Like one time the shit weasel bites it's like a toilet bowl scrubber that Beaver's fighting it off with.
Yeah.
And it just holds it for a second, looks at him, and then chomps through it. Yeah.
Yeah. It just adds an element of campiness to the movie that I don't really mind, honestly.
You didn't mind it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, that was really what I was getting at, is if you mind the campiness.
You know I love some good camp.
I mean, I do too, but I just wasn't sure if you thought it was appropriate
I mean,
for this
it
movie.
does kind of tonally clash with the rest of the movie, but I think it needs it. Because if it doesn't have it, it feels like it takes itself too seriously.
Okay, you think this is a movie that shouldn't take itself too seriously?
No, because if it did, it would be terrible.
Why? Because it is shit weasels?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a movie about making the bathroom scary. Come on, Ben. Can't be too serious.
All right. That's a hot take.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
What'd you think about the deaths in this movie?
I'm really upset that Beaver died so early. He
If
died
I'm-
in the first 30 minutes.
No, it was a little bit more than that. Maybe 40.
No, because when I looked at the clock and said, "Oh, it's been 45 minutes," Beaver was dead,
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
and it had been a while
you
since he
kept
died.
complaining about that after the fact, too.
I was mad. He was a good character that I felt like deserved more screen time.
He's a good character, yeah.
They're fine. None of them are particularly crazy or interesting.
No.
They just either A, worm bursts out of you, die, or A, you get eaten by B, you get eaten by worm. Or I guess in Owen's case, you get shot to death by. Those are the more interesting ones. I think is the one where it's not the aliens killing people, it's the people killing people.
Yeah.
Those are more interesting.
I think one of the things I want to mention is they're kind of degrading deaths. Like, Beaver kind of gets killed in the bathroom,
Yeah.
beat up by a worm.
Yeah.
Kind
All
of
right.
sucks.
That's fair.
Pete
Just gets annihilated out of nowhere.
fights with it, but gets his dick bitten first.
Yeah.
And then while he's infected with, like,
The Red Ripley stuff.
with the Ripley, which I'm just going to call it right now. It's called in the book Ripley fungus. That's what the scientists call it, because they've been
Okay.
researching it for a while. Call it Ripley fungus, but he's infected with this stuff, and then he gets bitten in half after
Yep.
he stands up for himself. Owen has this massive shootout where he barely does anything, and then just bleeds to death.
Yeah.
Curtis just, his helicopter explodes. You know,
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you think it kind of lines up with that theme of like slow death kind of stuff? Like the whole bathroom thing, the whole film's kind of degrading. I mean, things are coming out of people's buttholes.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the really degrading deaths.
Those are the really degrading ones. honestly.
McCarthy has this worm pop out of his butt. So does this woman in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
I was just wondering what you thought about that, or if you noticed it at all.
I didn't really catch it. Honestly, it wasn't something that I was super paying attention to.
No, so not a big deal.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just keeping asking you questions. There's not really like a back and forth here.
No, I mean I'm just trying to.
I'm trying to save my thoughts
Yeah,
so
because
I don't ruin your perception.
yeah, I know what you mean. Trying to preserve my perception of the movie based just on the movie and not based on what the book says.
Yeah.
I understand.
What do you think of Jonesy's Mental Warehouse? I know we kind of mentioned
Oh,
it.
it's so cool.
Do you think it was do you think it was a good way to deal with like psychic powers?
Yes.
Like as an internalized way of
I
showing
think
it on
it's
screen.
so fucking. That is my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And I thought, I mean, even when it first popped up, when he was like, "Oh, I have a mental warehouse," and it showed it to me, I went, "Oh, we get to see it." Like at first, I thought it was gonna be a throwaway line of like, "Oh, I have a mental warehouse." where
Especially because everyone else is like, yeah, you know the mental warehouse. And
Yeah,
they're like,
yeah.
we don't have it, but Jonesy does.
Yeah. And it's really, really cool. It's such a cool introspective into the mind of a person.
It's a cool set, too.
It is a cool set.
It's basically like multiple levels of this circular like library,
Mhm.
but they're piled high with shit.
Yeah.
Like you can tell he doesn't have any more space. There's stuff
Mhm.
everywhere.
Yeah, and it's all like organized alphabetically.
And then he has the secret room, which is this room from like when they were kids where they saw the No Bounds to Play. Yeah, so you like that?
It's super cool. That
I mean,
chef's kiss on that part. That
not
was really awesome.
to get into stuff too much, I do think it is a good way to visualize like kind of internally cyclic
Mhm.
powers.
I agree.
It's pretty interesting. It is essentially the equivalent, though, of, okay, you know in SpongeBob, that meme where you get to see inside of his head, and
Yeah.
it's like all the different SpongeBobs freaking out about the paperwork? It's
Yep.
essentially that,
It's that, but it's one man.
but it's one man.
It's very cool.
It's cool. It's a cool way to like show someone like inside their mind organizing memories. That was a fun way to visually show that.
I'm glad they actually showed it.
Oh yeah,
instead of
if
just-
they had just mentioned it,
Yeah, I
it would
would've
have been
been
lame. But it's also a good setup for him being in the secret room later,
Mhm.
hiding from Mr. Gray, who's in the rest of the warehouse.
Yep.
It's a visually decent way to do that. Next question. I just kind of want to mention this now.
Mhm.
Damian Lewis, the guy who plays Jonesy,
Mhm.
does an amazing job switching between Mr. Gray
Yes.
and like Jonesy. Now, obviously, a lot of his switches are done in post, like ADR.
With ADR, which I also thought was cool.
Where
because-
Jonesy is like, he's talking as Mr. Gray, but then we hear Jonesy's voice on the side. So it's not like back and forth acting.
Mm-mm.
But I just want to mention that it's hard to play two very different characters in one movie.
Yeah, who are in the same space at the same time.
Yeah, it's
There's
just hard
one
to wrap
person.
your head
It's
around
super
that.
cool.
I think it's also interesting to mention that, well, we only see it for a little bit. Jonesy before the car accident is a little bit different than Jonesy after the car accident,
Oh yeah.
like in temperament, but also in like how he moves and everything. So
Yeah.
Damian Lewis essentially has to learn how to play three different characters.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to mention he does a very good job.
He does do a very, very good job.
But I think the most interesting part of him playing Mr. Gray in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
did you pick up on the fact that Mr. Gray does not move like a normal person?
Yeah, everything he does is so awkward because he's not a human.
It's awkward or robotic, and I take it as he doesn't know how Jonesy's body works exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And as the movie progresses, he gets a little bit better at it.
And I
But-
think it's really funny. There's some moments where Mr. Gray has been digging through Jonesy's files in his head, and he's picked up on some things, and he says stuff the way Jonesy would say it. And he picks it up on it, and Jonesy goes, "You've been reading through my shit, haven't you?"
Yeah, because Mr. Gray has access to the whole warehouse.
Yep.
Except for the little part that Jonesy's
That
stashed away in
Jonesy's
his
locked
office.
away.
But yeah, did you like the British voice for Mr. Gray?
Yeah, it's fine.
Nice
It's
distinction.
yeah, I was gonna say, it adds distinction.
All right, here's an interesting fact. Damian Lewis is, I think, British. I think he's from Ireland or
You're telling me that man was doing an
Wales.
American accent?
So, yeah, he's doing an American accent. He's also doing a fake British accent because his actual British accent isn't posh like that.
Dude, this guy's range.
I think he's from Ireland or Wales or something. I forgot to write down where he's from.
God damn, that's actually really cool.
But yeah, he has a similar accent. It's not that posh one for Mr. Gray. He's throwing on a voice, but yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
So he essentially does two different voices.
Because I was convinced he was an American. I did
Nah,
not know he was not
He's
American.
not American. We're getting to the end of my questions here. Why do you think this movie's called Dreamcatcher? Is it because of like the symbolism of a dreamcatcher and how it's used to like defend off evil or nightmares? Or is it just because like why do you think so?
See, that's something that plagued me throughout the entirety of watching the movie is why it was called Dreamcatcher. I was thinking about that the whole time, and I never came to a good conclusion. So I'm gonna throw you a nothing answer. I don't fucking know,
Okay.
and I can't give you a straight answer.
So in this movie, they show that this dreamcatcher they have hanging in the cabin was made by all of them.
Yeah.
And so, like, each member of the group made one section of the Dreamcatcher, and
Sure.
then they made a fifth one for Duddits.
Which is the middle one, the biggest one.
So, I mean, I think it can be shown that the Dreamcatcher represents all of them. I think you noticed something really interesting halfway through the film is that when Henry goes back to the cabin and there's red stuff everywhere, the Ripley fungus, half the Dreamcatcher is infected, and at this point, half of them have died.
Yeah.
So I guess it's partially to represent all of them.
But see, you could do that with literally anything. Why specifically a Dreamcatcher, right? There has to be a deeper symbolism to that.
Yeah, but I think it's partly that it represents all of them. But I maybe it's the whole like Dreamcatchers catch bad things, and the movie goes hard with this idea that Duddits, who's an alien, gave all the four boys powers so they could save the world.
So they could save the world, yeah.
And so maybe the idea is that they're like
They
a
are the
Dreamcatcher,
Dreamcatcher, and
they're
the
supposed to
aliens
catch
are the nightmare.
Yeah,
Sure, that feels loose.
it does feel loose.
It feels
I'm
loose
just trying
for
to
Stephen
figure it out
King.
for this. Well, it's for the movie, Bob.
I know.
So I'm just wondering if you think that is valid or
It's valid if you want to interpret it that way, and
Mm.
that's I don't know.
I don't know. I was wondering if you had anything interesting for that
No,
Dreamcatcher analogy. No,
it feels loose to me, and I can't put my finger on it, and I don't
fair
like
enough.
it. Like, not that it's bad. I just you could have used something different, but it wouldn't make sense because I guess they probably pulled it from the book
the
and
book's
couldn't
called
really
Dreamcatcher. Yeah.
expand on it as much as they should be able to in the movie. You know, I'm sure the book does a way better job at that stuff because it's 900 pages.
So, two more things. First of all, what do you think of the alien life? I mean, how many aliens are there, Bob?
How many? Sorry,
Different types of aliens are in this
two
movie.
that we know of.
Okay. What are they?
The worms
Mm-hmm.
and whatever Duddits is.
So the worms are all one thing.
Yeah.
What's the red stuff? Like the fungus?
Ooh, that's a good question. I assume it's how they reproduce. It's how they infect creatures to give them worms.
Okay, so you think it's like
It's sort of like a delivery mechanism.
like a sperm kind of spawning thing?
Yeah, that would be my
Okay.
guess. But that doesn't really. Yeah, it kind of makes sense, but not really.
I'm just wondering what you think of the alien
Because
life.
the worm, because Mr. Gray makes the dog eat the red stuff to get the worms.
Well, he makes the dog eat a dead alien.
But the animals affected by the red stuff do get worms.
Yeah.
And the people affected by the red stuff do get worms.
So you think the red stuff is like spawning stuff, like
Yeah, that would be my guess.
spores?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the other one's Duddits, right? But specifically, let's, I guess, focus on the worm shitweasel aliens.
Sure.
Or ETs, I think, as Curtis calls them.
He calls them ETs, yeah.
Yeah, throughout the movie. What do you think about the idea that, like, this is an alien that is super hostile to Earth? Just like in the fact that I know the aliens in the crash landing part were going like, hey, leave us be, help us. But even though they're saying that, like, they're innately hostile.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Because,
Mr.
like-
Gray is trying to infect a lot of people.
Mr. Gray is, but, like, even the ones on the crash light, like, let's say they're Curtis
I know
says,
they're
I'm not...
innately hostile because instead of running back to the ship and hiding, they run back to the ship and blow it up and kill as many humans as they can
So you
before
think
they
they're
go
just
out.
hostile?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I what I'm trying to say is, like, what do you think about the fact that it's a life form that no matter what it says or does, it's hostile to human life? Like, even if they weren't lying and they were like, hey, we're not going to hurt you,
Mm-hmm.
the fact is, like, the way they spawn,
Yeah.
or their ship explodes into red stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I assume that's infectious.
Probably.
I don't know. What do you think of that as, like, a concept? Like, this is an alien life form that's, like, you can't coexist with it because it...
I think that's interesting. I do genuinely think that's really interesting because me as a human being, as a person, I am not very confrontational. And I don't like the idea that another thing is innately there to cause conflict. The fact that this thing is sort of is a I don't know what to say is bad. I feel bad for the aliens because even if it adds a layer of, I don't want to say sympathy because it's not really sympathy.
Because you think they're just
There's-
hostile.
There's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah.
Even if they wanted to not hurt humans, they are innately dangerous to us. Does that mean we should eradicate them? Maybe.
All right. Yeah. So this had a good lead in. What do you think about Curtis? Do you think he had the right idea?
Yes.
Yeah?
Fuck him.
Kill all the people in the rodeo area?
Mhm.
Okay.
Fuck off. I cannot justify letting them. Like this. This is gonna sound really shitty. I can't justify letting them live.
Because you think the risk is too high?
The risk is too high. That's
Fair
global annihilation.
Even if some of them get better?
That's the problem. That's where I run into a moral quandary. Because even Curtis says, like, there hasn't been enough testing to really certify this. Now, if there had been, maybe I could see a situation in which it could work, but it would require the amount of manpower and effort I think it would require for us to contain and watch the people long enough to see who bursts into worms and who doesn't is not worth the risk.
Not to mention, those worms, they move pretty fast.
They're fucking dangerous.
But also, each of them has eggs inside.
Yep.
So, like, the eggs have a bunch of tiny worms in them.
Mm-hmm. It would require you to basically seal each and every single one of them in a
Sealed room.
in a hermetically sealed room, basically,
And hope.
and hope that they don't die from the worm explosion
Or escape.
or escape. And those worms are fucking. I mean, they're tiny, man. They're tiny and pretty
About the size
quick.
of an earthworm, like a
So,
big
like,
one.
if there even is a crack in that thing, it could get out, right?
Yeah, so you're on with Curtis's plan?
Yeah, I can't justify.
You feel bad about it, but you're on with it.
I feel bad,
Okay.
but I'm on board.
That's really all the questions I got.
All right.
We're going to do something interesting here.
Okay.
Who would you recommend this movie for right now? Before I give
Ooh.
my description, who would you recommend it for?
If you like sci-fi, this is a good sci-fi movie.
Uh-huh.
I don't think it's very scary.
No?
It's kind of gross, but I mean, yeah, I think this is a fun sci-fi movie.
All right. Maybe a thriller?
Yeah, sci-fi thriller. I wouldn't really consider this horror. I mean, there are some horror aspects to it. Like, some of the worms are pretty gross and fighty, and that's kind of cool.
They're weirdly brown.
They're weirdly brown, like a turd. Also, the big ones look like turds. They do. Yeah, if you're a fan of sci-fi thrillers, I recommend. If you're not a fan of long movies, I wouldn't recommend. This is a long fucking movie. It's 2 hours 15. Like, it's not that it's a slog either.
Yeah.
Like, I think it actually went by pretty quick. I was worried I was gonna fall asleep. I wasn't sleeping. I was watching.
Okay.
Oh, there's one more thing I was gonna say. Oh, if you're a fan of like weird movies, I think this movie's very strange. I don't know if that's like a good recommendation, but like I would say I'm a fan of weird movies. Like I like weird shit. So if you're a fan of weird stuff, this is weird.
I mean, it makes sense, but it's just weird.
It's strange. Yeah, it's just a strange.
It's not like a nonsense movie where you don't know what's happening.
No, it's not nonsense. It makes
Because there's
sense,
movies like that.
but it's just a strange watch.
All right. And then I guess final question, rating. You're rating right now before I talk about it. You can change it later, but.
I don't know why. Like I get why people gave it a low score
Mm-hmm.
because like I said, I think the pacing is terrible. I think it's horribly paced.
Fair enough.
But I don't hate it. Like, it's fine. And I think, honestly, I was worried that the CGI would look bad. The worms look fine. The aliens look fine. 2003 CGI kind of holds up. It's not terrible.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
It's not too bad. Honestly, 3. I don't hate it, but it's not bad. Like, I think it's a fine movie.
Okay.
It's fine.
That's fine.
And I like some of the stuff they did with it, you know? Like, I like the psychic power stuff with I like specifically Jonesy's power. I
With his
think
mind warehouse.
yeah, I like the Mind Warehouse stuff. I like the characters a lot. I think the dichotomy between Owens and Curtis is really cool with Matheson mixed in. I think the military stuff is interesting. It's just a weird movie. It's just strange, you know?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Anything else to add right now before I start
No,
changing
because
your
I'm
perspective?
really interested in what the book has to say.
All right, then I'm going to get into the book stuff, which I've been very excited to talk about.
I know you have. I'm excited to hear about it.
Personally, I've read this book. I'm only going to really talk about the first half to the first, like, 3/4 of the book.
Okay.
Just because of spoilers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, really like the book. I like it. It's probably one of my more favorite Stephen King books, which is surprising because, like, here's the thing I'll say about the book. It's out there. It's completely wild.
Okay.
Like, Bob, you think this movie's wild? No, the book is even more wild.
Really? Holy shit.
And there's kind of a reason for that. And the story here is Stephen King in 2014 told Rolling Stone that, and I'm quoting here, "I don't like Dreamcatcher very much." So Stephen King doesn't like the book.
Doesn't like the book.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
So not a very great sell. But I think part of this is because Stephen King has stated that he wrote much of the book while on Oxycontin while recovering from his 1999 car accident. This was actually his like first book published after said accident.
Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, he wrote the whole thing like by hand in cursive in the hospital. High
High as shit on painkillers.
So when I say this book is wild and out there,
oh, it's probably
wild
batshit.
and out there because he's high as balls when he's writing it. And, like, you can kind of tell. Like, it has the normal tropes and weirdness of Stephen King, like the psychic powers, the boyhood, childhood stuff. It's all there, but it's also, like, there's some weird all over the place stuff. I love it. Like, I knew that kind of going into the book that it was going to be weird, and I had heard the story about, like, how he wrote it right after this car accident and stuff. He was recovering, and he wasn't sure if he was going to write again, but he did this. But I like it. Like, it's over the top, but, like, the weirdness makes sense because a lot of the weirdness has to do with, like, the weird psychic powers the kids have. And I guess this is a pretty good way to get into it. Basically, most of the book is, like, internal character dialogue.
That makes sense.
It switches from, like, different characters' perspectives, and while it's on that character's perspective, we get to see, like, their thoughts and also sometimes, like, them thinking about stuff that happened in the past. And so a lot of it's internal, and that's a big thing with Stephen King's works is, like, a lot of what happens is in the characters' heads, like their thought processes.
Yeah, and I think I think this might be one of the better versions of that, especially with the Mind Warehouse stuff.
Well, what I'm going to say there is Stephen King books naturally don't translate over to film very well because a lot of the story is what characters are thinking, and you can't have characters, like, say that out loud.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But the psychic elements are one of the things that's probably the most in characters' head. In the book, the psychic powers are very different.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They don't translate well to film, but they definitely could have be translated better. Basically, for the 4 boys, what it is they can kind of know things that they shouldn't know. That's basically their power. They pick up on stuff.
Okay.
And I guess it's vaguely mind reading, but rather than, like, I'm thinking something and you pick up on it, it's more like they just know things.
Interesting.
So I'm trying to think of a good example. During, like, the scene where Henry is in his office, right?
Yeah.
And he's talking to this patient who's describing, like, all the foods he likes to eat. Henry just, like, realizes that this guy killed his mom, essentially.
Shit.
Like, that just pops into his mind. That's kind of how it is. But their psychic powers have this more deeper theme going on. They call it seeing the line.
Oh, interesting.
I think that's what the movie tries to do with the weird spiral thing.
Oh, okay.
That it's like a tunnel, but in the book it's kind of a line. That's what they call it. They call it seeing the line, and it's basically like they can trigger themselves into a state where they see the line and they have to follow it.
Interesting.
It's hard for me to explain because, like I said, psychic powers, Stephen King likes to do them a lot, but they're never really explained in depth. It's more like pick up how they work from
reading
how
it.
people use them.
Yeah.
Beaver has the most straightforward, not Beaver, Pete has the most straightforward use of his powers. In the book, he does this thing where I believe he taps the side of his head with his one of his fingers. He doesn't do, like, this weird finger thing. And when he taps the side of his head, he can zone in and see the line, and he can use it to, like, find things and figure things out, like to work his way through a problem.
That's kind of cool.
Stuff like that. Again, it's a very subtle version of telepathy, essentially.
Yeah.
But it's not.
I think using telepathy as a way in the movie to explain it away is actually pretty good.
Yeah, and I giving each one, like, their own individual version of the powers is also kind of okay. I don't know. What I would say is it's an interesting way of handling the issue of powers that are very subtle and hard to translate into film. I didn't necessarily like all the stuff they did. I thought Pete's use of the powers with the tunnel, I know you liked it. I thought it was very cheesy.
Really?
Yeah. Just because the powers are more subtle, and so making them seem over the top
Yeah,
doesn't
but it's a
jive well for
movie?
me. I know, but
That's my thing. Like, in a book, that's totally, I get that.
there's a lot more subtle ways to do than a giant force tunnel.
Yeah, but only they can see it.
Yeah, I know, but you could have done, like, a simple, like, line or something. A very spiral force tunnel is a very over-the-top thing. But again, mental powers don't really translate well.
Yeah, the only mental power that really translates well is, like, telekinesis, because, like, you can see it, right? That's that's like a physical thing.
And so, like, well, I don't think they did a good job of translating them to the screen exactly. I don't think I don't think the choices they made were bad per se.
It's fair.
Next thing I want to mention, kind of the sayings they use. SSDD, same shit, different day.
Mm-hmm.
We see it a lot through the film. Basically, it's just a thing the guys say to each other a lot. They
Yeah.
started saying it when they were kids. They taught it to Duddits, which he would say. Duddits has, like, a lisp or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, same shit, different day, so SSDD. Also, you thought Beav was really funny.
Yeah.
He uses a lot of fuck me Freddy, he says a lot.
Yeah.
Which it kind of irks me. In the movie, they say fuck me and then comma Freddy. I don't know if you...
I
Nah,
saw
it's
that.
one word. It's like a hyphenated thing. It's fuck me Freddy.
Interesting. Okay.
But yeah, that's Beav's character. He does a lot of... I think they call him, like, Beavisms. Where he says
He
a bunch
does.
of...
There's a bunch of them.
Oh, he doesn't do, like...
Fuckery, fuckaroo.
But he doesn't use any of the ones he does in the book.
Really?
Not really. He does almost all of Beeve's dialogue in the book is super duper funny because he says these heinous things that are like colloquialisms that only Beaver uses.
That's really good.
Like Jesus Christ bananas,
yeah, he says that.
or it's colder than my balls on a buzzsaw, like a bunch of weird stuff, and it's just a lot of fun. And I just wanted to mention that.
Damn.
I'm trying to think of a way to break down all these book stuff, and it's kind of hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the way we can do this is let's start with the opening.
Sure.
I found the opening to the movie very jarring.
Really?
Yeah, it just opens up mid-scene. And I guess what I'm trying to say is the book starts with like kind of this establishing stuff with characters.
Sure.
The way the movie says like these people have psychic powers is so unsubtle. I didn't like it.
Really?
I thought it was really bad.
Interesting.
Because, like, I guess let's start with the opening scene. Henry's in his therapy office,
Mm-hmm.
and the guy's talking about food. It's the very fat guy. And, Henry comes out of nowhere, and he's like, do you think you killed your mother? And
Yeah.
stuff like that. I didn't like that.
Really?
Because in the book, it's handled more, not subtly, but internally.
Mm.
Basically, in the scene, Henry starts following the line, and essentially he can't help himself because he's following the line.
Interesting.
Essentially, he's getting annoyed because the guy comes into his therapy office once a week because he has to.
Mm-hmm.
But he just talks about food the whole time, and Henry knows he's eating himself into his grave. But then the stuff about the mom comes to his head about why he's eating himself into the grave, and he can't control himself, and he does. I don't know. There's basically they all use their powers at one time, and you get to kind of see that in the beginning of the book, but it's a
Yeah.
lot more. It feels less jarring. Like the movie felt like it was just screaming out, they have psychic powers.
I mean,
But in the book, like I said, the powers are more subtle, and they're closer to something like that could just be like a parlor trick, like Sherlock Holmes, where he's hyper observant.
mm-hmm.
Like they feel closer to that, where like as an outside observer, you could look at someone doing something and be like, oh, they're not psychic, they're just weirdly weird.
Yeah, and when Pete finds the lady's keys in the movie, he goes, "I'm just lucky."
Yeah,
That's how he explains it.
the book kind of plays it closer to that,
Yeah.
and I guess what I'm trying to say is it feels more natural in the book, and then just in the movie it felt very in your face in a way I didn't like.
Yeah, I don't really know if there was a better way they could have done it. You know what I mean?
I know.
Especially with like how you're describing the powers. I feel like it would be super difficult to translate that to a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the point is like the subtle psychic powers that Stephen King likes to do
Yeah.
don't necessarily translate well over. The way they do powers in this movie are very in your face in a way that they don't necessarily have to be.
Sure.
I didn't think that worked very well. Next thing, you know how I mentioned some of the deaths in the movie are kind of, what's the word I used? Like, demeaning?
Yeah.
The deaths in the book are so much more graphic.
Really?
So much more graphic.
Holy shit.
I
They
think
weren't really that graphic in the movie though, to be honest.
Yeah, they're not that graphic in the movie. They are graphic in the book.
Really?
I don't want to get too much into spoilers because you might
Mhm.
read it. And okay, before I go on, I think this is my big point versus the book and the movie.
Sure.
They had to condense down the stuff in the book a lot
Sure.
to fit it into 2 hours. It's about 900 pages. And I think you're right. This could work maybe a lot better as a miniseries.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 or 3 like hour-long movies or something. But they condensed stuff down a lot. They like stripped a bunch of dialogue out, or they just changed it to condense it. And that kind of takes a lot out of it.
I could feel that in the movie. I'm going to be real.
Yeah.
And I could tell.
Watching it, I was getting kind of like, not annoyed, but I was like, this is such, I would look at scenes and I'd be like, I know exactly what scene this is in the book, but you stripped all the impact out of it. Like, it's so much worse.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I think that shows a lot in the deaths. Like, there's so much more, like, graphic detail in all the stuff. Like, that's body horror and death-wise.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, in the book, I know I said it makes the bathroom scary and stuff. And, that's kind of Stephen King's. He's kind of said that's his idea. And you think that's kind of goofy.
Yeah.
And it's kind of campy, right?
Sure.
Not campy at all in the book.
Really?
Oh, my God, no. Here's my sell for the book. For anyone who's seen Alien, you know the premise of Alien, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen Alien.
Okay. Do you think the aliens are scary?
Absolutely. Terrifying.
What do you think is the scariest part of the alien?
Chest bursters.
That's basically what the book is.
Oh.
It's
If this movie had been more of that, that's fucking terrifying.
I know. The book,
Is it just bursting
the
out of their
shit
ass?
weasels are essentially more in-depth versions of the chest bursters. It's like Stephen King took a chest burster and was like, let me expand on this part and make it more realistic.
No.
Um,
No. See, that would be fucking freaky, bro.
The book is not, like, the psychic stuff makes it weird and bonkers in a way I like.
Sure.
But the actual like alien body horror stuff is horrifying. There's like no levity in this book. It's brutal. It's heartbreaking. You say you like Beaver. Beaver's so much more likable in the book, and his death is so brutal. But getting back to the chest burster stuff. So in the movie, we see the guy's chest gets bigger.
Yeah.
And then his stomach gets bigger and he starts gassing and stuff. In the book, what ends up happening is he wanders into the house, and McCarthy's fucked up.
Oh, shit.
Like, besides the fact he looks pale and he's got this red stuff on his face.
Yeah.
When he walks into this house, his stomach's really...
Yeah.
There's nothing about the chest. Stomach is very, very loaded.
Sure.
And it comes out that he's filled with gas.
Mm-hmm.
And when he burps and farts, his stomach...
Yeah.
So rather than saying, like, Jonesy in the movie goes, his chest, like, the stuff transferred to his stomach.
Yeah.
Like, the bump. In the book, it's more like, well, when he burped and everything, his stomach, which is really, really expanded, like it had a huge beer belly, shrinks. Because rather than a creature moving from his chest to his stomach, it's just air.
Mm-hmm.
And the gas that comes out of him, they describe it smelling like ether, which if you don't know, they also describe it as like rotten bananas mixed with like lighter fuel.
Ugh.
I think it's implied it's the insides being munched on and like fermenting.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's foul, man.
But the book's a lot more gross. The things when they burst out of people's asses,
Yeah.
they don't just crawl out of the asshole. They burst a foot-wide hole out of their rear because it's just the easiest way for them to burst out. A foot-wide hole is torn into these people.
Fuck that, dude.
But
If we had seen any of that, it's over for me.
we go to see it. I'm just gonna describe a simple scene. I think you saw me listen to the scene at work, and my mouth just opened. Kind of spoiler for how Beaver dies. A lot more graphic in the book, and I'm just gonna mention the first thing that happens to him. I'm not even gonna say all the stuff that happens to him before he dies.
Sure.
It's a lot more messy. So I think you saw in the movie the thing grabs onto his crotch.
Yeah.
In the book, it grabs onto Beaver's testicles so hard that he hears them pop.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, the book's a lot more brutal.
Oh my
And
god.
They don't transfer that over either. And I guess that's kind of, a thing. Like the alien massacre scene,
Yeah.
dude, that is unpleasant because
Yeah,
it's
man.
uncomfortable. They focus on the whole idea that the aliens are projecting like these pleas.
Oh god.
Because
yeah. If
they're
that
not-
had been more, I would.
They're
have
not
lost
projecting it into people's minds. No, they're sending out a signal to radio waves and stuff. And the aliens are saying, it's like 3 lines over and over. Please don't kill us. We're harmless. There's no infection here. And they're saying it over and over on repeat in different people's voices who are specifically famous people of the time, like presidents and movie stars and stuff like that. They're saying it in English, and then they'll say it in French.
Oh.
And they do it over and over, and they've been doing it for like days since they crashed.
Holy shit.
And the other thing in the book is the reason they're freaking out, it's cold, and the aliens can't live in the cold.
Oh, makes sense.
And so, like, it's just fucked up.
Yeah.
So it's basically, it focuses a lot on these humanoid things begging to not kill them, and then Kurtz goes in and murders the shit out of them. Because I think this is the fun thing to get into. Kurtz in the book, I like Morgan Freeman as an actor.
Sure.
I think he does great. I'm not sure if this was him getting poor direction or what, or how the character was written. He does not do a good job of portraying Kurtz.
Really?
So Colonel Abraham Curtis, the character in the movie,
Sure.
is called Abraham Kurtz in the book. Does that name sound familiar?
No.
No? Abraham Kurtz he's a character
Mm-hmm.
from a little book called Heart of Darkness.
Oh shit.
The guy who goes and
Yeah, I've
sets
read
up
Heart
the
of Darkness.
plantation in
Uh-huh.
Africa that they have to go
Yep.
like extract. Yeah, that's Abraham Kurtz. It's
Yep.
implied in the book that Abraham Kurtz is not this guy's real name. It's the name all the soldiers who's worked with him on
That
this,
they gave him that name?
that they gave him that name because he's so similar to Abraham Kurtz from Heart of Darkness.
That's
Now, if
fucking.
that
That
doesn't
guy's
tell
a
you
monster.
How insane this man is.
Yeah, dude. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I haven't read Heart of Darkness since high school.
Abraham Kurtz.
You gave me a flashback memory.
And they actually changed the name from Kurtz to Curtis in the
Mhm.
movie because they didn't want to confuse people.
Sure.
But yeah, Kurtz in the book.
Oh, I'm sure he's an absolute monster.
Oh, he's a monster. Hell, him and Owens, they're not friends.
Interesting.
Kurtz wants to put a fucking bullet in the back of Owens' head. The
Oh
whole
my
book.
God.
He's a madman. Like, absolutely mad. The scene where he shoots someone,
Yeah.
that happens. He shoots this guy in the foot, blasts off the full front half of his foot with a
Ooh.
gun. Not because he lies to him, but because the person in question uses a slur when referring to the aliens.
Okay.
Basically, in the book, they call them gray boys.
Okay.
And one of the people on base he hears apparently had called the gray boys a space N-word.
Oh, shit. Well, that's not good.
And Kurtz doesn't like the lack of seriousness in that, and so shoots him in the foot. That's his punishment.
All right.
I don't know. There's a lot of stuff. Like, the whole mine stuff isn't exactly the same. with the
interesting.
warehouse. I don't know. It's a lot more serious than the book. It's a lot weirder, but I'd recommend it. I'd say go read it.
I might actually read it. I'm kind of interested now that I've
There's a
seen
lot
the
of good.
movie.
You can get it on Audible. I think it'd be a good Audible book.
I actually have some credits on Audible.
I've
I
been
might get
listening
it.
to it. That's how I read it. I listened
Yeah.
to it. Very good audiobook.
Who reads it? Do you know?
I can tell you right now.
I'm just curious because I always like to know who reads the books before I listen. Because some people who read audiobooks are not very good.
Jeffrey DeMunn,
Okay.
but it's an official, like, that's the licensed audiobook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's pretty good. I guess, I don't know. I was getting kind of sidetracked with the book stuff because there's a lot I want to say, but that's not like the focus of this podcast.
I mean, that's fair, but I really enjoy the hearing what's different because
And also, I don't want to spoil too much,
Yeah.
you know? I guess what I'm trying to say is the book is a lot more serious. There's no levity to it. And also, the weird batshit stuff is a lot more weird and batshit.
fair.
I think the only thing I kind of skipped over is the Dreamcatcher stuff kind of makes a little bit more sense.
I would
in
hope
the book.
so.
However, the original title for the book was supposed to be Cancer.
Huh.
And Stephen King's wife told him, do not name it Cancer. That's such a bad name. And she's kind of right. Naming a book Cancer is super pretentious and
I mean, yeah.
not great. However, there is a ton of cancer analogies in the book, and it's a lot more well-earned.
Mm.
In fact, my favorite one, I pulled up the quote.
Does Duddits have leukemia in the book?
Duddits does have leukemia, yes.
Okay. I was just
But-
curious.
Also, thing I want to mention, Duddits in the book has Down syndrome.
Mm.
Very odd that he's played by two people who do not have Down syndrome.
Yeah. That was something I wanted.
Especially because he has a specific way of talking
Yeah.
that's a little uncomfy in some ways to hear from someone who
is definitely not doesn't actually have that issue. It's sort of, I didn't want to say it, but it feels really bad watching the
Yeah.
movie because I was like, that is, I don't know, unflattering but not in a, I don't know. It's just
I kind of get why
yeah.
they did it, but I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
Especially because Down syndrome.
Yeah.
All right, I guess I'm gonna close with fun line that Kurt says.
Oh,
I think
God.
this is
All right.
one of those good examples of where the cancer analogy comes in.
Sure.
It's Kurt's giving a speech, and he says, because they are not helpless little E.T. boys waiting around for someone to give them a New England telephone card so they can phone home. They are disease. They are cancer. Praise Jesus. And boys, we're one big hot radioactive shot of chemotherapy. Do you hear me, boys?
Damn.
Yeah.
That's see.
He's so much more intense.
Yeah.
So much more intense.
I can tell, and I feel like Morgan Freeman could have been more intense.
He
as
could
an
have.
actor.
And I'm not sure if
I think it was the direction.
I don't know if Morgan Freeman could have played the Kurtz from this well enough, simply because I think Morgan Freeman has too much charisma, but he could have been more intense.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's all I got to say because that book has a lot to unpack. I think I hit some of the big things I wanted to say with the book versus the movie.
Did you give it a rating? I don't remember.
I'm going to do that right now.
Okay,
So,
because I'm really curious what you think, having read the book and now seen the movie.
I cannot obviously remove myself from
Yeah,
having
I mean,
read the book.
Of course. And also, I feel like and this is just me, if people who saw this movie were probably like, oh, this is a Stephen King book that I really like, I'm going to go watch the movie.
Yeah.
They were probably so
'Cause
disappointed.
I know Stephen King doesn't like this book, but this book was a bestseller.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's really weird and I don't think it's maybe necessarily one of his best written works, I think it's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's probably up there for like my favorites from him just because of how bonkers it is, but it's fun. You know, it's got that bonker stuff that I get from it, but also some really cool
Aliens?
body horror and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that my sell for it is, chest bursters. It's basically that.
Oh, God.
A lot of fun. Dude, this movie's so disappointing.
Yeah.
Like, I threw this movie on here because I had heard about this book and I wanted an excuse to kind of read it and stuff.
Had you seen this before?
I think I saw parts of it when I was really, really young,
Mm.
but this was like my first time watching it
Okay.
since then, but very disappointing.
I
I had heard it was
yeah.
Bob, it's such a bad adaptation.
can tell. I can tell based on the looks on your face while we were watching it.
Oh,
But also, like, I could just tell that, like I said when you asked me what I thought of this movie before the spoilers, it needs to be spread out because
But,
there's
like,
so much stuff missing.
the way some of the characters behave or how the whole movie felt really cheesy to me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's because there's some depth missing, but it just felt really cheesy.
It's a very surface level movie.
I cringed every time Henry said anything
Really?
because of how serious he is. He just
Yeah.
feels so cringy.
That's fair.
I want to talk about things, but I don't want to spoil parts of the book for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first of all, the distance between the car accident and the cabin, how far do you think that was?
Well, I mean, Henry walked there in less than a day.
Yeah.
Probably a couple miles.
How many you think?
I don't know, 5-10 miles.
It's 10. It's not less than a day. He has to run there. He runs for about a couple hours because of how far it is.
God damn.
And it's like the end of the day. The sun's going down. He's hurt in that accident real bad. His leg's fucked up.
really.
The reason he falls on those skis is A, because he hasn't skied in a while. The skills are rusted. They're half broken. His leg is fucked up. But also because at that point in the movie, Henry's basically mad.
Really? Holy shit.
Yeah, Henry's super suicidal.
I mean,
before
yeah,
the
that's
movie starts.
They're
They're very
very
unsubtle about it in the
Yeah.
book or in the movie. He's very funny about his suicide because he's not like I'm putting a gun to my head in the
Yeah.
book. He's like, I haven't decided how I want to kill myself yet, but I'm gonna do it.
Interesting.
But like part of the reason I didn't like how serious he was because by the point in the book he's at when he's on those skis,
yeah.
Henry's lost it. He's mad, completely mad. Like he says some funny shit because he is off his rocker. I'm gonna give you one funny line because I don't want to spoil things
Sure.
for you because I think you're gonna read the book.
I'm probably gonna read it.
And for anyone who is gonna read the book, basically all the characters in this have nicknames. I
Yeah.
mean, Beaver, that's not his real name,
Well, yeah.
but he's Beaver. Jonesy is Jonesy.
Mm-hmm.
Pete doesn't really have a nickname.
But his
I
full name
refer
is
to-
Peter, but they call him
It's
Pete.
I refer to him as Spaceman Pete because he wanted to be an astronaut, and that does
Okay.
come up. A couple characters, though, after he goes mad, refer to Henry as the Eggman.
What?
Yeah, because he starts singing "I Am Walrus" for no reason.
Jesus Christ. He is fucking
And it
mad.
also is after he starts stomping the eggs and shit.
Oh, okay.
Very, very fucking funny. And so he eventually, not even gonna say it, but yeah, line delivery, it felt very cheesy. I think Henry's the worst example of it, where he just came off as overly serious,
He was super
In a-
serious.
but in a very cheesy, like, I'm an action hero kind of way.
yeah, and it didn't really fit. It kind of clashed with the rest of it.
Yeah, and I just felt like the movie lost a lot of depth. They took out a lot of the stuff that I think made scenes more impactful, like with the aliens. Like, they barely had the whole, like, projection stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm trying to say is very bad adaptation of the book. So, my rating here,
See, you're gonna bomb it, aren't you?
it's real low, Bob.
I know. I rated this without having read the book, but also as a fan of weird movies. And this movie's fucking weird.
And so I think I'm going to rate it,
Mm-hmm.
not based on, like, did this movie do what it set out to do, but, like, for me, this is an adaptation.
Yep.
So when I grade adaptations, I have to go, did this movie do a good job as an adaptation? 1.
Damn. First one on this
May-
fucking show.
I don't even want to say 1.5.
No, yeah, I know. You know what?
I'm close because, like, I think some of the creature stuff's okay.
yeah,
Like, the
I
CGI
agree.
and stuff's fine.
CGI
but, like,
stuff's fine. I think the creatures are actually kind of scary.
I'm going to say 1. 'cause it's
the
a bad.
practical of the worms are good too. Like whenever you actually see them die and it's not CGI and they're actually physical, it's fine.
They're okay, but
yeah, no,
I didn't like
look,
the movie.
that's completely fair. And having not read the book and having none of the perspective that you have, I probably would also give it a 1 if I'd read the book. Because I can see how fucking bad this movie is. The only reason I give it a 3 is because I think there are some things that are pretty okay about it, and I don't hate
Yeah,
it.
so I was very interested to hear yours. Like, I haven't read the book, so you're like,
Yeah.
thought process isn't tainted. But yeah, a 1.
I didn't hate it, honestly, not having read the book, but I could see how definitely it could be a lot better.
But yeah, I'm going to go with the 1. So I don't know if I'd recommend this. I mean, like, go with Bob's recommendation here for this film.
Yeah.
As someone who's read the book, it was cool seeing it on film.
Yeah,
but
that's
it's just,
true.
It's such a
That's
bad.
fair. Oh, I forgot a recommendation earlier. I'm going to throw this on here now.
Okay.
If you're a fan of like action movies, like action sci-fi, I even said it. This movie feels like Independence Day at some point. When Curtis and those people are blowing up the aliens and shit, I'm like, this is Independence Day.
So the book, and I guess in some ways, the movie has been compared to Stephen King's version of War of the Worlds.
Yes. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good okay.
So
Makes sense.
You say you like how the shit weasels are.
Yeah.
So the reason Curtis calls them shit weasels in the movie, right?
Yeah.
Is because in the book they're described as basically looking like weasels without arms or legs, but like a mouth on their bottom. Do you want to see someone? I found a picture someone drew.
Oh, it's probably so much
One
scarier.
of the weasels, but it's like a more book accurate description.
Sure, I'll look at it. Here, I'll move over here so I can look. Oh, that's pretty accurate to what they look like in the book or in the movie.
I mean, I guess, but they look less like turds.
Yeah, they look really like turds in the movie.
They're also described as like being. They might have hair, but they have like a layer of slime over them.
Yeah. They are slimy little creatures.
What is some other stuff that's scary in the book? Oh, the Ripley fungus.
Yeah.
That stuff's no bueno.
It was so much worse in the book.
Apparently, because we're in Pete's head after he gets infected,
Yeah.
he can actively feel it eating him because it eats you. Because it's like a fungus that eats you. So it's like a fuzzy. It looks like black mold, but it's red. Yeah, it's eating you. Anyone who's infected, there's no way you're living.
Oh, that sucks.
Also, kind of a spoiler, when Mr. Gray
Yeah.
starts fucking killing
Controlling-
Pete.
Oh, killing Pete, yeah.
you know how he's actually doing that? Because they don't explain it in the movie, but they do explain it in the book.
Oh, is he controlling the fungus?
Yeah. So the fungus at that point is all over Pete's face and
Yeah,
stuff.
it is.
He's causing it to constrict and crush him.
That's brutal, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, because it looks like he's force choking you Vader style.
Oh, that's eventually how Pete dies.
Oh. Oh!
He crushes him with it. Yeah.
That's brutal.
Instead of biting his head off, which I think's a lot more brutal.
Way worse.
But yeah, adaptation, I'm gonna give it a 1. As that's my movie review. A 1. I put it on the board because I thought it would be a good board episode.
It is a good board
I think it's a
episode.
good board episode. We got some content out of this. I think that's all I got.
Yeah, I think that's all I got too. This movie's a fucking strange one.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
One more?
one more thing, but we're gonna go to our outtakes first, and then I'm gonna mention it on the end of the podcast.
Oh shit, okay. I guess we'll see you in a minute.
Yeah.
Bye. Hello everyone, welcome to the outtake section for this episode of Beware the Board. I hope you're enjoying our review of Dreamcatcher so far. I know Ben didn't like it that much. I thought it was fine as a movie, but once again, I haven't read the book. I don't have the context to give it sort of a deeper analysis like he does. Without further ado, let's get into the first outtake for this episode. This first outtake is our reaction, well, at least mine, to watching Jonesy get absolutely annihilated by a car. Holy shit! Oh my god, what the fuck? Is he already dead? This next clip is Ben and I discussing why I enjoyed the parts of the movie where the characters are children a lot more. I was hoping we could have more kid stuff. I like them more as children.
You don't like them as disheartened adults?
No, makes me sad.
What about the scene where one of them tried to shoot himself?
Yeah. Relatable content.
I'm clipping that.
No. I'm not going to clip
You
it.
don't have to put it in, but I think it's a funny clip.
Yeah, that's fair. This next clip is a small jump scare as Pete and Henry approach the woman that caused them to flip their car. At first, she seems like she's frozen to death, and then, well, she moves. Oh! This next clip is my reaction to Jonesy and Bee finding McCarthy dead on the shitter. Oh!
Jonesy, if he can still do that, he must be alive. I mean, come on. Can you hear me? I think he's dead. Bullshit, he is. He just dropped the clinker. I heard it. I don't think that was a clinker. All right, that's enough, fellas. Snap out of it.
Oh! 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 Flush it, idiot! This next clip is my reaction to watching Beaver get absolutely annihilated by a shit weasel. Oh! Ah! Oh my god, that thing looks nuts! This next clip is my reaction to seeing Mr. Gray for the very first time. Ugh. I don't like how this worm thing looks, man. Oh, what the fuck?
Guess what, Bob? It's your favorite.
What the hell? Hi, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the outtakes for this episode. I don't know how many we really got. There were a couple. It was aight.
Maybe 7.
Maybe
less.
7, and I probably didn't even include all 7 of them.
Are
Movie wasn't scary. I didn't really have a lot to say during the movie. I was just kind of sitting here enjoying it.
you glad we watched it?
Yeah, actually, genuinely. Like, it's not an amazing movie, but I'm glad we watched it because it's weird.
I mean, it was the first one from me,
Yeah, exactly. I like it when we do bad, like,
which I feel bad about because I really like the book.
that's how I felt when we watched The Taking of Deborah Logan.
I know.
thought that movie was really cool, but I couldn't give it a good rating.
All right, Bob. I said I was going to say something before the
Yeah.
outtakes.
What you got to say, Benjamin?
I mentioned this at work to you the other day, a while ago.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a mascot for the podcast? Because can we do a shit weasel?
You want to use the fucking shit weasels for a
Yes.
mascot for the podcast?
I think they're so cool.
Okay, what if we use just Mr. Gray, like the big ones?
No.
No, come on.
Because one of the weasels gets named in the book, and
Does
it's
it?
the funniest name.
What's it
Yeah.
called?
Are you sure you want me to tell you now? Are you going to read it?
I'm going to read it.
Do you want me to tell you now? Because it's very funny.
Well, if we're going to use it for mascot, I have to
Oh.
know.
Okay, Jonesy names it
Okay.
Bowser.
Which one is he? Does he name one random one Bowser? Just one random one?
Oh, no. So the way they do, like, the stuff in Jonesy's head is very different.
Yeah.
Jonesy has a straight-up conversation with Mr. Gray while he's in his head.
Oh.
And Mr. Gray has a pet worm that he's petting like it's a cat.
Oh, my
and,
God. Like he's Dr. Evil?
Yep.
Awesome. That's actually, and he calls it Bowser?
And Jonesy names it Bowser.
Okay. I'll consider Bowser as a possible mascot for the podcast. Do we have any other announcements, Ben?
I don't think so.
Don't think so either. So,
Nope.
in that case, check us out on Twitter at Beware the Board. It's where I post everything about the show, episode updates, polls if we have them. Basically, if you want to know anything about this podcast, look at our Twitter at Beware the Board. Follow us on there to keep updated.
Yeah, if you're listening to this on YouTube, give us a like, some comments, ring that notification bell. But whatever you do, don't hit that subscribe button. It's red. It's infected, probably.
Oh no, it's
So
covered.
you
No,
don't-
the Ripley fungus.
You
no.
don't want to touch it.
It'll
There's
eat you
probably
alive.
going to be a worm coming out of it soon. So leave it alone. Or if you're really dedicated, just like quickly hit the white
Just,
part.
yeah, do something. If you have any recommendations for the random category of the board, please leave them in the comments. We need your recommendations to formulate the pool at the moment. We haven't really decided or told you all how we're going to figure it out, but we're going to figure it out. We are coming up on the next board, which is very exciting for me personally.
You got 2 movies left.
2 movies left,
Or
baby.
2 spots left.
Well, yeah, 2 spots. Could be more than one movie.
There's
we
6
don't know.
movies left, Bob.
That would be heinous. That's like a crime. Honestly, after the first board, I'm so glad we haven't had like 16 movies in a row. Because that was rough, man. If you have any recommendations for movies you think we should watch on the show that you think are scary and or interesting, leave those in the comments too so Ben can look into them and maybe we'll watch it, maybe we won't. Find out. We will be on everywhere you get your podcast soon, hopefully. We're not on there yet, but we have gotten more art updates. We're working on it. Whenever we get onto Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, I will let you know.
And who knows? Maybe by the time this episode comes out, it'll be out.
It'll already be out. We don't know. We will see. But I think that wraps it up, Benjamin.
That should be it.
So I guess we'll see you next week, everybody.
And remember, always beware the board.